UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon to you, my friends. Just gone 4 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom Wednesday. What is it, 16th of July? Drive Time follows the legend that is Ian Collins. Back tomorrow, of course, from 1, but we're here until 7. And as ever on the show, listen, I'm sick and tired of setting an agenda. I'm not paid to do. That's down to you. This is your show. What do you want to talk about? I can lay out a few things that are in the news. 0344, use your number. Get to it straight away. 0344 499 1000. Jodie, our Joda. Is our Joda, Yoda, don't call it Yoda, you'd be right in trouble. Anyway, she's on 0344 499 1000. You can as ever send a WhatsApp note to Ryan. That's weird, the screen's gone red. It's big red lights, never mind. 0344 499 1000 on the WhatsApp, and you can of course text the show whenever, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We were in the middle of Drive Time yesterday with this astonishing story about the data breach that led to, well, yesterday they said 23,900 Afghans coming to this country overnight. It seems that thousands have been arriving under the cloak of darkness in unmarked planes for the last 2 years, bringing family members, 5, 6, 7. This figure could top, according to Bob Seeley, the ex-Tory MP, 100,000 people. Now, of course it was human error. And of course these people helped, did they, all of them? I don't know, the Brits in Afghanistan. Let's give them that credit. But I repeat something that Nigel Farage touched upon yesterday because I think it's relevant. In the situation we are in this country, with borders that are non-existent, and it seems a flow of people out of control with no checks, yet again, thousands of men, Afghan men, 23,900, the majority are men, it's a fact, can you shut that door please, have been allowed into this country, OK, allowed into this country without any vetting, without any checks. And what that says to me is that local communities could potentially be in danger. Now, Starmer can pontificate in the Commons, and he's right to say that this was undertaken initially in terms of an injunction to keep it from the British people by the Tories. But he's been in power for 12 months. If he thought it was so goddamn appalling, why did he not drop the super injunction, allow the press to tell the British people the truth? Because surely we have a right to know who's in our towns, who's in our communities. And I know the left, I've read the stuff all day. The left jumping up and down saying, oh, you can't be disrespectful, these poor people helped us. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Nigel Farage stood up yesterday and said that there is evidence to say that some of these are criminals and sex offenders. Actually, let's refresh what the leader of Reform said yesterday about the 20+ thousand Afghans that have come into this country under the cloak of darkness. Have a listen. Go, Nige.
Amongst the number that have come are convicted sex offenders. I am not, I promise you, making any of this up. And the total cost of the operation has been a staggering £7 billion. Of those that came, none of them were included in the immigration figures. There has been a total veil of secrecy put upon this by the last Conservative government and frankly carried on until now by the current Labour government. The numbers are off the charts. The cost is beyond comprehension, and the threat to women walking the streets of this country, frankly, is incalculable. I can't think of a better example of the total incompetence, dishonesty, and genuine lack of understanding what the priorities of a British government are than this Afghan scandal.
Nigel Farage, leader of Reform, pointing out that there is belief that some of these people have a pretty bad reputation and history. And I go back to it. I'm not bothered whether we blame the Tories. I'm not bothered whether we blame Starmer. I'm bothered about politicians who do not seem to be listening to the British people, which is simply saying, as we've said every day on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense, and we will continue to say it because it's truthful, the British people who live by the law, pay their taxes, don't ask for handouts, don't get jack, and who are struggling, are sick to death of violence on the street, criminality, immigration out of control, public services in the mire. Now, today the Prime Minister jumped up. It's not his problem. I've only been in power 12 months. I inherited it. Here's Keir Starmer's response to this Afghan disaster.
There's always been support across this House for the United Kingdom fulfilling our obligations to Afghans who served alongside British forces. We warned in opposition about Conservative management of this policy, and yesterday the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction, a secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Ministers who served under the party opposite have serious questions to answer about how this was ever allowed to happen. The chair of the Defence Committee has indicated that he intends to hold further inquiries. I welcome that and hope that those who were in office at the time will welcome that scrutiny.
I'll tell you what the British people will welcome, Sir Keir Starmer, and any of the rest of you who are in Parliament, is not a whitewash again. When you look at what happened with the rape gangs, when you look at what happened with the post office, this is not right. How the British people were denied the truth for 683 days by some, I don't know, legal celebrity gagging machine, so that the government, successive governments, didn't tell us that 23,000 Afghans, whether they helped us or not, and I don't believe, I'm going to say it and get into trouble probably, I'm not sure they all did, but there we go. I just think it comes back to the same old thing. If you as a country want to help people, that's fine, but surely, without being slagged off, you'll have to look after your own people first. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We are delighted. First up today for Wednesday. I'm a big fan of this lady. The first Reform UK female MP for Runcorn and Helsby. Sarah Pochin, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy, and thank you for asking me to come on this afternoon.
A pleasure, a pleasure. I'd love your take on this. This story sort of broke in the middle of drive time yesterday, and we've had Starmer being, this is outrageous, it's on the last government. We've had Ben Wallace, the ex-Defence Secretary, saying, I did what I believe was right for all these people. We've heard from your boss, Nigel, saying, actually, there's a majority of these people with criminal records. What concerns me, and I think concerns the British people, is that in this current climate, with everything that is going on, under the darkness of the night in unmarked planes, yet more people we haven't vetted being allowed into our country. And from a female point of view, I don't think that's safe at all, do you?
This is something, Jeremy, that I've been talking a lot about recently. So the first thing to say is the duty of any government surely is to keep its own citizens safe. Yep. We know that there was about 100,000 on this list that was released in error to the Taliban of people that were applying, Afghan citizens applying for, British citizenship or leave to come into this country, visas, I should say, because they claim they helped us during the problems and the war over there. Now, as you've already said, we don't know how many on that list legitimately helped us. We do know that there's approximately 1,000 to 1,200 Afghan special forces and Afghan interpreters that we do know actually worked alongside our own British Army. And I absolutely agree that they should be given, solace here and refuge here in this country, because they were, and they absolutely put their lives at risk. So that's about 1,200, Jeremy. So where do we suddenly get 100,000 on this list? Already, like you said, yesterday, the Daily Mail, who blew this story up, having been gagged for 23 months. Yep. And by the way, the Taliban said they knew 3 years ago about the existence of this. Well,
I'm going to say something really contentious and jump in. If the Taliban have known for 2 years, and this is really, and I credit Mike Graham with this, I heard him say this on breakfast, right? If the Taliban have known these names for nigh on 2 years, and there's 1,200 that worked for special forces that we know about, but the figure's now north of 20,000. Why haven't that remaining 18,000 been butchered or attacked or killed by the Taliban in the last 2 years? Why is the risk as real as we're being made? I don't know. I mean, there's so many questions, right?
This is an example of, yet again, where the British government At the time, the Conservative government, and we know the Home Secretary was Suella Braverman, the Immigrations Minister was Robert Jenrick, and here they are. They've been named and they've been shamed today for allowing this to go ahead. Yes, there was a super injunction. Why didn't they resign over this issue? The fact is that this went on under their watch. There's no vetting of these people that are coming in. And we started off, you asked me about sexual violence towards women. We know for a fact that the Afghan population in this country have a much higher than average number of sexual assaults against our white British women in this country. In Runcorn and Helsby, we have this problem. We have had rapes. We have had sexual assaults against women by an illegal immigrant community. It's a real live issue, which, by the way, I am permanently told by publications, local Labour newspapers like the Liverpool Echo, that I'm lying about, that I'm making it up. I'm dealing with a claim today from that particular publication saying that I'm lying. No, I am not lying. We have constituents that have come in. I have evidence. The Labour Party are in denial about this, but look, here we are. This happened under the Tory watch.
I completely agree. Let me throw something at you, because I tried really, really hard to give both sides. James from Devon has just sent this. He says, Jez, I'm disappointed with you. These Afghans and their families took risks to help and support the fight to destroy the evil Taliban. Whether translators or special forces, they were helping our soldiers. We should protect them as they would be executed in Afghanistan. They are the people we should protect and allow here, not the 150,000 undocumented illegals the current government are processing and filtering out into our communities. These are the risk, and they are at risk by either the Taliban or ISIS. Now, James in Devon, absolutely entitled to your opinion. But my answer to that, and I'd love your take on this as well, Sarah, is exactly what I just said. If the Taliban have had that list for 2 years, you've made a very salient point about the special forces, and I am not in any way saying that translators and people didn't. But from a small number, it has become a huge number of people who have been allowed without being vetted, without being processed, or bringing their families. And my point is that yesterday, and you'll know this, Sarah, because it was said in Parliament, was that even ministers have privately been saying there could be trouble on the streets because the British people are at the end of their bloody tether. And that, for me, is what politicians need to understand, that just at this moment, when even our own king, what did he say last week? There's no borders. British people who live within the rules and pay their taxes and all the stuff I say every day will look at this Taliban data breach and go, right, so that's another 20,000 who are getting a better damn life than I've got. And if we don't admit that, we're wasting our time.
Jeremy, on every level. So let me just pick that apart. They're being put into MOD housing. So our army barracks, effectively, they've been putting into that, as well as migrant hotels, where we have our own veterans that are homeless on the streets.
Yep.
This Labour government removed the winter fuel allowance. That's one of the reasons I won the Runcorn by-election. They have lost their core vote. But a government of any persuasion can suddenly find £7 billion to bring in, under a covert operation, 23,900 of these Afghans that have not been vetted. So how is it possible that every single government can find money when it comes to illegal immigrants, when it comes to housing them, clothing them, giving them driving lessons? I mean, I know you've heard all of this from me before, but it is a big issue in my constituency, no matter how much the Labour councillors, the Labour PCC and the Labour local newspaper tells me I'm lying. It is a big issue.
And I think there's something else as well, and I want to absolutely congratulate you. I'm going to stick up for Johnny Mercer, an ex-Tory MP, because he said it in the Telegraph today. They talk about, James in Devon, and I take your point, James. I mean, we love debate, right? We should repay. Well, what about what Sarah Pochin just said? I was in my local town the other day and I met a guy on the streets. 14 years he given, 14 years. He looked at me, honestly, on my life, and he said to me, I used to stay in a hotel. It's full of migrants. I just ask you this, Jez, and he said, I know you do the talk thing with Mike and the others. He said, but why did I give that service to my country? Why in the name of God did I give 14 years to my queen and country when I'm on the damn streets and people aren't? And my point is this. I completely accept there was a data breach. I completely accept within that number there are people who were threatened. I just make the point again. The Taliban have known for 2 years. There's many people jumping on the coattails of that terrible decision. They weren't vetted. And the truth is this, right? People have to understand that however bad things are in the world, don't we have a duty to our own people first and foremost? When we were rich, when we were flooded with money, yes, but we're not. We can't afford the interest on our debts. And I just think, I keep doing it every day like you do, but it's priorities. And I think the British people have woken up to the fact that it's not fair. I really believe that, Sarah. I really do.
If I can just finish as well, before you want to move on or something to another subject, but the point is that I think this is going to blow the lid on a whole area of cover-up, Jeremy. I know from a whistleblower that's come to me about Home Office issues, people coming in my area that haven't been vetted, that haven't gone through the terrorist checks. This is one issue that we're talking about today. I think once this gets blown over, there's going to be a whole lot more of scandal that's coming up. I think this is, as Zia Youssef has said earlier today, this is going to be one of the biggest issues of British, a scandal in British society, letting down British people yet again. But it's the Tories have done it, the Labour do it. But two main parties that this country has been forced to live with for so long. Well, you know what? They're both finished because you're right. The British people have had enough, and I do worry about how much longer the British people will keep their anger and their frustration under wraps, because I'll tell you what, I don't think the British people are going to last another 4 years of this government.
I watched in Parliament the other day, and I saw you and Richard as Nigel Farage stood up to ask a question, and I watched the equivalent to 300 MPs from all sides heckle and jeer so he couldn't speak. And I remember thinking, right, and genuinely say that, and I'm not, I voted Reform, people know that, and there's much I need to know about Reform, and I think it would be very interesting to see what happens, but I will say this. I looked at the screen and I thought, you sat there in Westminster, you lot, on 100 grand a year. You have absolutely just shown me by your reaction to a man who, at this moment, is riding high in the polls and is answering the things that the British people want to talk about. It might not be the case in 4 years. It might flop. But I will say this. To those MPs laughing in Nigel Farage's face, you're actually laughing in your constituents' faces, and you're laughing in the face of a majority of people in this country who, and it might not be Reform, and I make that point, are fed up to the back teeth of being passed around, shortchanged, and being made to feel like second-class citizens in their own country. And one thing's for damn sure, this radio station, this television, is never going to stop saying that. I don't have to sit here and say vote Reform or vote anybody. What I want to say every day when I sit here is the British people need to find their voice and find their mind, because what's going on in this country is an utter disgrace. Actually, from a political point of view, I should tell you, later, we just got some breaking news from Sir Keir Starmer's office. He suspended a fourth Labour MP just now. Rachel Maskell has followed 3 other rebels to be booted out before the summer recess as he looks to gain control of his party. This is a man who can't control his backbenchers, has now got to the point where he has to throw MPs out who disagree with him, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that the whole freedom of speech issue is going to be massive. They're trying to stop us, you and me, having these type of conversations. And I wonder whether this Labour government, if it does stay the course for the next 4 years, is going to bring in laws that means actually you and I cannot have this conversation without being arrested. And funny enough, I was outside Parliament earlier, and in front of my office, there's someone blaring out protests. And I said to the coppers, 2 coppers stood there, 20 years as a magistrate, I prosecuted people for public order offences, Section 4A, public order offences. I said to these 2 coppers, why is that not a noise nuisance public order offence that these protesters, why don't you just go and arrest them? Because I can't hear myself think in my office. And they both just looked at me, and I said, look, I'm pro-police. I absolutely support the police. I understand the police have been just told what to do. And they said, do you know what they said to me? It's orders from above.
Yep. But
that's got to change. And I'll tell you
can
what,
write inappropriate but wrong words and is languishing in jail. But you can stand outside Parliament and be pro this and pro that and anti-Israel and everything else, and you can get away with it. My point, which I'm free speech, I completely am with you. We're getting to a point, right? We're getting to a point where I'm not advocating or saying people are going to take to the streets. I would never, ever say that. But I think politicians of all parties and all colours and all creeds need to understand the British people are on the edge of their seats.
Yeah.
Very quickly, one other thing. Breaking news as well. Prevent scheme have admitted they missed chances with Sir David Amess and the Southport killers. That's great, isn't it? This is the government's anti-terrorism scheme. Fails us, the British people.
That scheme has been an absolute disaster. You know, it's been a waste of money because, yet again, they're paying lip service to the British people and they haven't got the conviction or the commitment to make sure that those terrorists, like that Axel Cabana, go through that scheme. And, well, personally, I wouldn't even bother putting them through the scheme. You know what I would do with them? You know, they'd be back in jail in their own country, and that's the end of it. Why are we wasting taxpayers' money paying lip service to something that doesn't work and, in fact, has resulted in the death of an MP in that particular case? I know that the stuff that I'm saying, Jeremy, puts my life at risk. I know that, but I will never stop saying it. But schemes like Prevent do nothing to protect people like me.
It's always great to have you on, Sarah Pochin. Fantastic job you're doing for Runcorn and Helsby. Brand new MP, Reform's first female MP on Talk Drive. If you want to be on and join us in the next 2.5 hours, thank you to Sarah. 0344 499 1000. The only number you need. Our Joe's doing it. You can do it on WhatsApp as well. You can send a text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Would be a good start. Next, the legend, the myth, the man himself. Mike Graham's on Drive next.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
4:26, we're live across the UK. This is Talk Drive, JK till 7. The main man has graced us with his presence. We've just done Plank of the Week. He is here on his usual Wednesday afternoon. Morning, Glory's legend, Michael Graham. Good morning.
Kiddo, I haven't seen you since last Wednesday when things were slightly different around here. Do you remember?
Last Wednesday? Oh, yes.
We had to do a whole show together.
What I found really interesting...
3 hours.
I don't know if you remember this, peeps. Maybe you don't. But basically, we were told at 3:30, after Plank had finished, that the entirety of power from the 13th to the 17th floor at Talk had gone.
Right.
General panic. Ryan was oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
He was looking very concerned.
He was flapping a bit, flapping. And what resulted was that our boss said, don't worry about those two old buggers, they'll be fine. And we ended up in a sort of what looked like a potting shed somewhere in Times Radio. And for 3 hours, without any news, adverts, guests, texts or calls, we talked non-stop.
We did. It was very enjoyable, actually.
We just talked, didn't we?
Had a good time. We came up here for the last hour, didn't we?
I can't really remember.
They fixed it for the last hour.
What I can absolutely tell you is that we left Kev there for 45 minutes and he thought he was on air and we let him carry on talking and we in fact moved the microphone and we're up here. But there we go.
Oh, well.
Mikey, this Afghan story, we were talking about it earlier. It is beyond unbelievable. I want to kick into breakfast if I can, because this morning you spoke to the Shadow Chancellor and former Conservative Cabinet Minister, I think he was Work and Pensions, Mel Stride, because we're trying to find out and glean who the hell knew what. This is Mike with Mel Stride earlier.
I've got to ask you the first question of the day, Mel. Did you know about this super injunction that took place back in 2023?
No, Mike. As with the vast majority of people, absolutely not. And I think that's the purpose of a super injunction, is to keep it extremely tight. I believe, actually, that Keir Starmer wasn't told until he became Prime Minister. So, no, I certainly didn't know. Well, look, this is there are lots of questions to be asked, and now Parliament will look at this and ask all those questions, and the Defence Select Committee in particular will launch an inquiry into it. But look, I think we have to also bear in mind that this Labour government, when they were made aware of what had happened, did not immediately, seek to have the super injunction removed. They actually only, after about a year in office, have decided to do that. So I think there is on the surface of it, it seems to me, a reasonable case that it was necessary and appropriate, as evidenced by both what we did when we were in office, but also what this government, the Labour government, has done during their time in office as well.
For me, right, so now we're going to get into the he said, she said. Starmer was blaming the Tories. The Tories are saying that Labour could have done something last year. Let's cut to the chase. It came out yesterday because, not because Labour wanted it out,
not
because
particularly, because a judge lifted the super injunction, because
encouraged by journalists,
encouraged by news organisations who had continually gone to try and get the injunction lifted, and a judge finally lifted it. And so, of course,
well done. Let's applaud a judge for a change.
I mean, people said to me, somebody said to me, so Theo Ashford was in with me this morning, and he said, oh, I know you don't like High Court judges. I don't have a problem with High Court judges. I just don't like politically motivated judges. I want judges to be judges. I don't want them to be activists. I don't want them to be left or right. I just want them to do whatever their job is.
With the evidence that they give.
But in November, when the last application was made to have the injunction lifted, the government fought it, and the government said no, we can't lift it because we want to keep it in place, and that's why Labour are just as bad here as the Tories. But of course, the thing that really disgusted me today was that this is the biggest story of the year, minimum, possibly the decade, right? And what did we get out of Prime Minister's questions? Let's talk about the economy.
No, let's not.
I mean,
how you screwed that up, because inflation's gone up.
No, but I mean, Kemi Badenoch didn't have the cojones to go in on Starmer and say, talk to him about this, because she knew that she would just get rattled by him. And so we didn't get any great debate. We didn't get any questions asked by her of him, which should have been, when did you know about it, and why did you take so long to respond to a judge, and all of that. Instead of which, we got Starmer making a statement saying, we inherited this absolute mess from the government, and we're now going to clear it up. But it's ridiculous.
So we played Nigel's call, Nigel's bit yesterday, which was about a minute, and he was saying there is proof to say that several thousand, perhaps, of these people could be sex offenders, could be criminals. Let's just look at the facts as well. Sarah Pochin was saying to me, we know that 1,200 of the 23,900 were special forces. Absolutely right. But my argument will be the remaining 22,700, we don't know who they are, what they are, they haven't been vetted. And if you look at the state of this country and how people are feeling because of uncontrolled mass immigration, economic migration, fact, whatever the left say, surely all the activists should be going, well, that could be a danger to women, that could be a danger to science. You don't hear them say anything like that.
Let's look back on since Starmer's been in. Now, knowing what we now know, Starmer knew that all of these Afghans were coming into Britain. They were coming in. We had calls this morning from people who said they noticed it around about February of 24, right? And then all the way through 24, these people were arriving in the country. They were occupying houses. They were being given properties. They were being brought into, you know, barrack-like all places. We had a caller from Uxbridge who said she lives in Royal Air Force Barracks, formerly, and she said there's a whole series of Afghan families got moved in sometime last year, right? So he knows all that, and yet he continually says we're keeping our borders safe. He continually makes out that he's forcing immigration numbers down. He's smashing the gangs, all the rest of it. You know, he's part of the biggest smuggling gang you've ever seen. They smuggled them into Stansted at night, where in unmarked planes. These are smuggling gangs we're talking about. The British government British government is complicit in that, and he knew all of that. And do you know what else happened? All of the riots, there's a memorandum that went round to every single person in the cabinet, right? There was a memorandum in September of 24 that said all of the places where there were riots were places where there was a very high incidence of incoming Afghan refugees. So, you know, they knew a lot more.
Just repeat that for people who are driving.
So, in all the places where there were riots, there's a memorandum in government in which they said to every minister in government that we know that where those riots took place, there were an awful lot of Afghans moving in.
And that is why the ministers have privately been briefing to news organisations saying we are concerned about rioting. Let's get to free speech. So there's a story out there. It's a free speech. Britons believe they can no longer speak their mind. How the hell are they going to have any confidence in a society that for 683 days has used a celebrity gagging machine to stop telling us the truth? I put something out yesterday. Love your take on this. Going back to Southport, I think it was pretty obvious to me that the government knew quite instantly about Rudy Bikana, right? They knew who he was. They knew he wasn't an illegal migrant. They knew his background. Right? But they allowed something on social media that was febrile to get more and more and more, and that spilled over, right? Surely, if they'd spoken out before about him, we wouldn't have had that riot situation. But I ask you this, does it not suit, or did it not suit Starmer's ideology and everything else for that to happen so he could quash it? And if that's the case, you then look at this and you go, so how much do we know and how much do we not know? I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but we don't know that 23,000 Afghan people, men, women, have come into our communities. What the hell does that say?
Well, it tells me that they want us not to know things, right?
Absolutely.
They want us not to know that they are deliberately making policy which is ruinous to this country, which is detrimental to the cohesion of society and of communities up and down the land. And they also know that we could end up with a town, you know, not necessarily in one place, but a town with 150,000 Afghan immigrants in it, right? Because the families are coming, the children are coming. We don't even know, as you say, who they are. We don't really know what they were doing. Some of them might be members of the Taliban, for all we know.
Well, that was the other interesting thing. So two other things. We'll take a couple of calls, if you don't mind, in a minute. A couple of other things. And during the show, I then get past a piece of paper that says you do know that a group of these people who have been settled here for a year plus have got themselves left-wing sort of human rights lawyers on the British taxpayer, and they plan to sue the British government for putting them in a dangerous position for £1 billion.
I know. It's absolutely unreal.
So how does that work?
You couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, it really is quite
And how
incredible.
many other cover-ups, as Sarah Pochin said, are there?
And what about Rishi Sunak? We haven't heard from him.
Not
we haven't
a word.
heard from Grant Shapps, who is supposedly the guy that asked for the super injunction in the first place. You know, what was the legal process? We need to know all the answers to all of this, because I think this finishes the Tories off. And in my show this morning, more and more people were saying, we've had enough, this is the final straw, let's just have an election, because let the people decide, because it's very clear now that Labour and the Tories are in cahoots with each other on immigration, and they can't be trusted. Very
interesting. You're right to go to calls. Derby, let's go to Nick. Nick, you're on Talk Drive, and Mike Gray and the legends with me. What you got?
Well, what a legend Mike is. But how does 60 feel, though? How do you feel about being 60?
Shut your face and get on with the call.
That was a long time ago, Mike.
It was a week ago. Mike and I don't remember what we had for breakfast. Crack on.
These 24,000 Afghan refugees, and the Taliban know that they know who they are now, don't they?
Well, they've known for 2 years. This is the interesting thing. They've known them. Somebody
know that they've not murdered those people and replaced them with their own men and sent them straight into our country.
That's an interesting theory. I hadn't thought of that one. But certainly, if they haven't done that...
It's not rocket science to replace somebody, is it? You know what I mean?
No, that's true. But also, even if that's not true... they've only just been coming over the past, say, year and a half or so. How come they haven't been killed, if that's the case?
Yeah.
I know. This leads you to believe that they haven't done it on purpose, or you haven't heard that they've been killed because they have replaced them.
I want to make the point that, of course, we absolutely rightly, for the 1,200 special forces of Afghans who helped us, we absolutely have to do the right thing. But the remaining number is a grey area. We don't know who they are, where they've come from, why they... And the thing is, those people were on a list attempting to get political asylum, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
They hadn't been guaranteed that, so they hadn't proved that they had the criteria. And we've done a blanket, you can all come on, in you come.
And how useless is the MOD? You remember going back to when the airlift originally happened right at the start, and it was a shambles, and there was all sorts of arguments about whether you could bring dogs and cats out and all of that. And there was only one person on duty in the Foreign Office, right? Do you remember that? There was only one person working in the Foreign Office at that particular time because everyone else was working from home.
Was this when what's it got into trouble because he was on a beach?
Yeah, and the sea was closed. Remember Dominic Raab, all of that, right? It then turns out we had Hugh Andre on again this morning. You know, our mate who's a former, commando in Afghanistan, right? And he said there was another blunder which was reported on at the time when another idiotic MOD sort of operatic sent out an email to all the soldiers saying you're going to get fired when you get back because they weren't supposed to see it. You know,
is everybody in the MOD completely rubbish or what?
Well, let's not forget, this is the organisation that Keir Starmer says is going to be on a war footing.
Can't even send an email, let alone shoot a gun. Let's head to Sussex, your home county. Anne, you're on Talk Drive, and the legend that is
Michael
Graham is with me. What you got?
What can I say? Have both of you on one programme.
Oh,
there's a thought.
So lucky. I'm sorry. The news today, it's just the last straw. Not only have we got a huge number of illegal immigrants, we've got the legal immigrants as well. And the legal immigrants, they are the ones who are going to be provided with the decent homes and decent furniture and equipment and given the skills for life that our poor, ordinary English men and women or the people on our streets or the veterans are never going to get.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, they know. I mean, Mikey was saying this, Anne. A lot of these Afghans have, under the cloak of darkness and secrecy, been housed in MOD barracks. I repeat this story in my town last Saturday. 14-year veteran on the streets. Gave him some money. He said, "Can I have the meal deal? And if you're going for me, I'll have the Snickers." Made me laugh. And he was telling me, 14 years, and he said, I got to stay in this hospital, it's now full of migrants. How do we have a situation, that's a fly, how do we have a situation whereby, it could be someone else, people who serve for this country are being screwed, and people who, the people who argue with me are going to go, but these people help protect your country, no, 23,000. And then wasn't there another story this week that even some of them, these veterans, are under threat of prosecution from the government over what they did in Northern Ireland. Let's just screw our own again, shall we?
No, I mean, Keir Starmer got up today and had the gall to say he had the greatest respect for our armed forces. You know, he's prosecuting them.
Yeah.
He's actually putting them through the horrors of going through a trial for something that they did when they were standing up for Queen and country at the time, killing members of the IRA who wanted to kill them. You know, it's unbelievable.
It beggars belief. Just very, 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 very quickly. Prevent, sum it up. They've admitted this ridiculous, useless government scheme that they missed the chance to deal with Sir David Amess, the late legend that was Sir David Amess's killer, and the Southport killer. They missed it.
I mean,
so
how
what's
many
the point
more
to prevent?
times are we going to be told that something didn't work properly? You know, if you might remember, I had Lord Carlisle on, who was meant to be the Prevent sort of safeguard supervisor, who had a massive row with me because I said to him, Prevent is clearly not fit for purpose. It doesn't prevent anything.
It doesn't prevent anything.
And he said, well, it works most of the time. And I said, well, that's not good enough.
No.
Because if you've got somebody...
a statement, isn't it?
And it's all, again, goes back to Starmer and his definition of terrorism, and they're talking about now making a different sort of sector so that people can be looked at if they've got violent tendencies. This guy was a terrorist. It's plain and simple. Everybody knows it.
But Starmer is putting his foot down. He's suspended a fourth MP now, Rachel Maskell. He's got rid of four of them. In the end, they're all going to get in a room and get rid of him. You know that,
they
don't
will.
You?
Absolutely. This never works out well for them. People want an election. They want rid of Starmer. They'd rather literally have anybody but him.
Couldn't agree more. What's on breakfast? Just say it's no idea. Why would you have any idea?
I don't know.
20 to 5.
I don't know, but we'll be certainly replaying the Lord Carlisle interview that I did.
Be the only way to wake up every single morning, Monday to Friday, from 6 until 10. The legend that is Mike Graham. We love you, my man. Get home and get some rest. We're back on in 3 on Talk Drive. Thanks.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
17 minutes to 5, live across the UK. This is Talk Drivers. Mike Graham exits the studio after about 12 hours, bless his heart, back tomorrow morning. He just looked at me and he said what all of us in this building think it's like every day. I'm John Nabar, the only lefty allowed on this show. He's an honorary. We love him. He's getting into trouble on a daily basis, by being so honest. Matthew Torbett, former Labour advisor. God, So let's start with the news that Sir Keir Starmer, not your favourite leader, is trying to stamp out sort of, any opposition to him. He's suspended 4 now. Rachel Maskell's just been suspended as they head into summer recess. So his theory to show that he's a hard man is to get rid of any dissenting voices. But bearing in mind that the welfare bill was utterly destroyed and stripped back because nearly 50 of them told him to shove it, irrespective of the 3-line whip. This is a road to disaster, isn't it? Doesn't it show his weakness straight away?
I think it shows weakness because you're going, don't do this again, because I don't know what we'll do about it. Because ultimately you've already shown that you can get 127 MPs to sign your amendment in Rachel Maskell's case, and we can't survive if that happens again, surely. I appreciate, if I'm to be fair, the party discipline element of, listen, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again, so we need to take action. It depresses me, and this is why I would be dreadful at the MP thing, because the party whip system is just ludicrous. People are there for many different reasons. Yes, it is about cooperation and helping the government and your party. That's if you're in the front bench in the cabinet. There's collective responsibility. If you are not allowed to represent your constituents, you take Neil Duncan-Jordan, the fella in Poole. My nan used to go Poole on holiday. It's full of old people, right, and no doubt lots of disabled people.
I live in that area. Thanks very much indeed. Basically said where I live for a whole.
It's not funny, Toby. Get out. Not in Poole, but yeah, nearby. I know what you mean.
Exactly, and you tell me how.
It's where everybody goes to die, basically. Let's be honest. It's God's waiting room.
And I've never been by there. I'm sure
There's
it's
a
lovely.
Zimmer frame shop in the high street, if it gives you some idea.
But this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
How would that go down? How would the Winterfield go down there? How would the PIP welfare bill go down there? Okay. And he has a job with a majority of about 49 or whatever it is. He's sort of an accidental MP. He's got to represent his constituents. That is your first role as an MP. And that's why I thought, someone said to me that the best thing that ever happened to you was not getting selected last time, because I'd have lasted 2 minutes.
But the other thing is as well about, collective responsibility. And the reason I can attack Starmer quite aggressively on this is, if you say to 400 MPs, here's our manifesto, this is what we're standing on, take that to your constituents, fight it, then I would absolutely expect, if you were one of my MPs and I was bringing in something that I put in my manifesto and you were going, I don't agree with it, well, you shouldn't have bloody well stood in the first place. But the problem with your old boss is he didn't create a manifesto that is either stuck to or given to the British people. So he goes off at a tangent, he's reactive, not proactive, and his MPs are going, and you give a really good example. I mean, under certain, there are always some MPs on all sides of the House who are troublemakers who want to make a name for themselves. I'd quantify what you said about if you're not in government. There are some who just want to cause trouble, but I don't know the guy in Poole because obviously I'm asleep half the time dribbling. But I would say this: if he's doing what he was voted to do and his party's changed tack and he's doing the opposite to what he told his constituents, he's every damn right. But for Starmer, I mean, the problems keep piling up. I'd love your reaction to the main news story, which is, and I mean, I'm watching already Starmer blame the Tories and then Ben Wallace blaming everybody. The fact of the matter is, everybody knows that we have an immigration problem in this country. Everybody knows that, starting with Blair, this decision to bring thousands of people into this country, unskilled or whoever it was, to do jobs that apparently Brits can't do or whatever, has backfired. Anybody who cares about women's safety and local cities and towns will tell you that it is a problem, that the processing is rubbish, and there is a building resentment amongst working class people that I'm doing everything correctly and I'm being treated like a bag of poo. To be fair, this 23,900 Afghans arriving in the shroud of darkness on unmarked planes in the last 2 years. A Tory government that took out a super injunction. A Labour government that didn't, by the way, argue. In fact, in November when this came to court, they fought the judge, only on the basis of a judge yesterday letting it out, do we find out. We know that 1,200 were special forces who helped us. It's very easy for the left to go, and the other 22,000, we don't know that at all. We do not know because none of these people have been vetted. And my point is this, you tell that to the British people with what's going on right now and they go, oh great, so we don't know what the hell's going on. And I meet a veteran on Saturday who's living on the streets having been 14 years, I just told the story, and he can't stay in the hospital because it's full of illegal migrants. The world's going mad, and well, this country is, and I fear, whatever your political persuasion, listening to this, the British people are going to find their voice, mate. I think it's appalling. It's absolutely appalling.
So there's several strands of this, and I will quantify my views by saying the way we withdrew from the Afghanistan period where we withdrew and what followed was the hardest point I had in politics. I was drafted in to help the MP I was working for with his caseworkers to process people. He had I won't say a large Afghan community, but there's an Afghan community in his constituency, London-based. And there were 5 of us, including the MP, so that'd be 6. And he did a special surgery for people who had family there stuck because of the ridiculous way Joe Biden had pulled out no real plan or thinking about what came next. And then
my argument to you and the break is, how many of the 23,900 are still alive? Because if they were vulnerable, what's happened in the last 2 years? Why haven't they been hunted down already? I'm not saying in any bad way that we shouldn't quite rightly support people who helped Great Britain. What I'm saying is, you've got, well, it'll now be 100,000 with families, you've got people coming here in darkness, in unmarked planes, that we haven't vetted because they hadn't gone through the system. And yet again, this country doesn't process migrants, and that's not great. We'll be back in 3. I want to hear your response on Talk Drive.
Yeah, well, it shows you just how panicked they are at how close we are, like most other countries in Western Europe, to going full-blown tonto over the level of immigration into this country, particularly from countries whose cultural values are not aligned with ours. I mean, with this story, there's nuance to it, okay? Because there are people who've campaigned long and hard about making sure that the men and the women who worked alongside Western forces in Afghanistan against the Taliban were given some sort of sanctuary. And in many respects, I think it is the right thing to do.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About the excellent Matthew Talbot is with me. I said before the break, and a genuine question. If the Taliban have known for 2 years and we're taking 23,900 people with their families because of a genuine fear that they're going to be killed, whether these people helped us or not, why are they still alive?
Depends when we got them out, I suppose. We know that the government still aren't being totally clear on that,
No.
and the Mail have said the same.
I salute the journalists that pushed this, by the way, and the judge who actually opened this up. Fair play to him, the judge that got it right.
My concern, as I said to you during the break, is the fact that governments can take out super injunctions against the press. And I said about if this happened during Watergate and Richard Nixon said, I need to save myself, we need to stop this. The media, regardless of any type of media, should be free and fair to hold governments to account. If you've made a mess, we should probably know about it. Governments will always lie. Governments will always keep secrets, maybe for national security, maybe for good reason. And you can bake that in a little bit. This sort of stuff, there's no need for this in my book. And it worries me that the government have been able to do this. And as I said to you off air, the big question for me is that is somewhat of a distraction. The super injunction, the people coming in, necessary and want to be discussed. Why has no one been sacked? The person that sent the email, listen, we've all messed up at work, maybe not to that degree, but we've all messed up. You've messed up, you've got to go. You've got to face
people's addresses.
This, 850 million it's cost us. The three schemes together, 7 billion. But this actual scheme, because of this error, has cost us all 850 million quid in a climate where London alone is paying £4 million a day in temporary accommodation. Where else are these people going? And you mentioned about the veterans. It's a disgrace that we treat people like this in this country. We're putting them in hostels. We're not investing in things like housing first.
Yeah, bloody hell.
I was on a panel today talking about homelessness, and my big thing is the shame isn't the homelessness itself. The shame is pretending we don't know how to solve it.
Absolutely,
we know how to solve it, and there isn't the political will.
When I met that veteran at the weekend on the streets in my local town, he just looked at me and he said to me, I don't understand it. I gave 14 years to my Queen, and I don't even know why I bothered now because I'm a second-class citizen. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what your political persuasion is. That's rubbish. Couple of voice notes. You should be able to hear them. Simon, on the Afghan scandal, go.
Well, according to the UK census from 2021, there's currently just over 115,000 Afghans in the country. So bearing in mind the Afghan war has probably been a war zone since 1979 or something like that, looks like the regime have been resettling Afghans for the last 20-odd years.
Thoughts?
Possibly. I can only speak on my lifetime, I suppose. I'm not absolutely au fait with the history. I'm aware Afghanistan's had a very topsy-turvy time of it for many decades. My moral view is that we made a mess. We went into a country almost creating somewhat of a war that had nothing to do with 9/11, but George W. Bush decided he was going in. We followed as the tail on the wagging dog, as we always do with the Americans. We caused hostility, we caused division, we wrecked a country and then pulled out at the worst possible time.
The Biden pullout was a disgrace.
No, exactly. There was no thought. It was an electoral ploy of, look, we're finally pulling our troops out, enough have died. None of us like to see that. We shouldn't have gone in the first place. But what you've done is you've allowed the Taliban to regroup. You've not overthrown them and done a regime change or any of that palaver. And they've now got all your weapons because you fled at the last minute.
Yeah, well, it was quite possibly one of the worst things I've ever seen. Darren on the Afghan scandal, go.
I cannot believe there are 100,000 interpreters. And how many soldiers did we have over there? 3, 4, 5,000, was it? We've only got 70,000 soldiers in total fighting force. That's in all our services. I'm sure the Americans had the vast majority. These interpreters, were they working with us? Were they working with the Americans? That's a whole Wembley Stadium full of interpreters. Really? It's ridiculous, Jeremy. This is a big con job.
Interesting.
3 schemes. Wasn't all service people. You had the ARAP scheme, which I think was for service people and those that had fought alongside us. You had the ARAC scheme, which I can't remember, it was similar but not quite the same as the military. And then you had, which this probably came under, the Afghan resettlement scheme. They weren't all in the military. I don't think anyone said that, but maybe it's been...
But he's right, they weren't 100,000. That's the point. They're not all going to be... I mean, but the point of the matter is that none of these people have been through a processing. And I point the finger directly back at the Tories and Labour. We can't find a processing system for migrants to come into this country. We don't seem to be able to come up with a system that says, yes, you can come in, or no, you bugger off and go back. I don't understand it.
I agree on that, and the Home Office has not been fit for purpose for the last 30 years.
No.
What I would say, the only simple way I can put it, you've gone and got involved in a situation you shouldn't have done down the boozer. I've gone, don't worry, Jez, I know it's all a bit of a nightmare down in Poole. I'll come in. I've cracked the fella that's doing your head in. He's eventually regrouped, put his nose back together, and he's coming for you. Well, I've landed you in that. I surely have got to help you out of it. That is where we are morally. So if why should we be allowing Afghan teachers
we have
to be killed?
No, I get that. We have a moral responsibility to people who helped us. The argument is, though, we don't have a moral responsibility to people, hear me out, who didn't help us because we haven't been able to prove whether they have or not, to the detriment of the British people. Listen, we are out of time.
I agree on that. I agree on that.
Do you know what I mean? And people will look at it and go, it's another example of we're at the back of the bloody queue, because they won't look at all of this. They'll go, great, and Afghans are being treated better than us.
And we should help. I think we should have helped the dependents and those that came.
Absolutely.
I came to help. The problem is we don't know who these people are, and that we can agree on. It's
we
not
always love having you on. The excellent Matthew Torbett. We head towards the news at 5. Former Deputy Chair of the Tory Party, Jonathan Gullis, next on Talk Drive. Back after the news at 5.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Hour 2 of Drive 4. I'm going to cough. Lovely Wednesday afternoon. We're live across the UK, the home of free speech and common sense. JK at the controls. Well, not really, Amy is. Here until 7 o'clock, as ever, if you want to be part of this vain attempt at a show. And it is a vain attempt. 0344 499 1000, the only number you need. You can just phone Jodie. You can send a WhatsApp voice note to Ryan, who'll cut them up. 0344 499 1000, or you can, of course, text the show, 87222. Hello to Zach, who says, Jez, surely the civil service is just as to blame as much as they're the problem. I couldn't agree more. Sue says, we have no moral responsibility to Afghans. We help them and train them to fight their enemy. Our country is now in peril. It was loath... What? Oh, yes. Well, sort of. Dave's in Portsmouth. This government is making my blood boil. My question, how many British soldiers were actually in Afghanistan? What is the proportion of British soldiers to Afghans that have come here? Probably very low. Simon's in West Sussex. I was a coach driver, Jez, in 2021 and provided a shuttle service for Afghan workers and kids to school. The service was paid for entirely by the government. Quite a few coach companies move families 7 days a week. These families stayed in a very high-class hotel in Crawley, near the airport. This has been going on ever since Boris was in charge. Jeremy, they are housing Afghans trained by our special forces in Bryce Norton. They won't even have to negotiate the picket fence like Palestine Action. They should be evacuated from military bases immediately. What about our veterans? Stuart in Perthshire. Afternoon, Jez. If Sarah Pochin were to lead reform, then I'd vote for them. As it is, I have no one to vote for. I'm politically homeless. Many are. Roy, the Taliban have only killed 340 people since they took over. So there's no way that the 24,000 should be here. That's an interesting theory. Phil, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for your involvement. He says, Jez and Mike, I think you are correct. The British people will push back hard now. Here's the beef. Police will not cope, military will not cope, so waiting in the hotels spread all over the country is a ready-made force waiting to be mobilised. Why are they caring for the so well, making sure that they are healthy and fit? We are in trouble. Simon's in Devon. There are currently 120,000 Afghans residing in the UK government has been resettling them for the last 20 years. That's the story. It's a fact. Finally, take a breath. Jane Osborne, don't try writing to your MP. I've written to him about the state of our country and my MP hasn't answered. Mind you, he is Labour and was a union idiot, so I'm not surprised. An election should be called before we are bankrupt as a country. Talking about MPs, a man who lost his seat but always did his best by his constituencies. I thought he was in prison, judging by the look. Jonathan Gullis, former... Nice squeaky at the door. Look at you. This is a photo fit opportunity. What's going on, man?
I've got a little one downstairs making a lot of noise. I've had to dash upstairs, Jeremy, into my bedroom.
What's happened is your shirt's moulding into the wall and all we can see is the beard and the hair and 2 lines on your collar. You look like a photo fit of yourself, Gullis. What's going on, man?
Do you know what, Jeremy? I've never had a sense of style. I'm certainly not going to get one anytime soon. And I look forward to being ridiculed as a floating head at some time in the near future. We would never accuse you of having style. We gratefully accept you being part of the show, though, and thank you very much indeed. I'm going to ask you lots of questions. Did you know about this when you were the deputy chair of the Tory party? Not at all. I first learnt about this like everyone else when the news broke the other day, and like everyone else was completely horrified that this very serious breach had taken place and no heads had rolled. Very concerned that no one in the civil service had informed, seemingly, any minister for about 18 months until there was a threat to publish it, followed by actually seeing, I think, a link put on Facebook. Well, let's talk about what the Tory government did. I'm not attacking you, but I'd like you to give us as much as you possibly can. It's come out that the Home Secretary at the time was Suella Braverman. It's come out today that her deputy, Robert Jenrick, the immigration minister, that they both took the decision to take out the injunction that became a super injunction, which has led to a huge debate in this country, which is that there's a poll out today, Jonathan, that says that many Britons, an increasing number, are beginning to feel that free speech and free information are under threat. They can no longer speak their mind. Do you think it's right and proper that a government, yours to start with and Labour for the last 12 months, have kept this for 683 days from the British people? No, of course it's not. I mean, the truth and reality is, I think our journalists work very well with our politicians. Had there been information, as it was at the time, that was very sensitive, I think there would have been agreement for around, let's be honest, 6 months, to have a blackout in the media reporting of this to allow the MOD to figure out what the threat to life is, as well as what can be done to support those who did legitimately help our armed forces and making sure they could get here. However, 6 months after the case, and the fact this was published then on Facebook, I don't really see how the government of either Conservative or Labour were able to justify continuing a super injunction on something that clearly needed scrutinising, because we've had men and women come into this country, let's not forget, not all of whom work for our armed forces, so we can't be guaranteed that that's the case, and as well been using taxpayer military funded accommodation, or indeed other private rented accommodation at huge cost, up to £7 billion potentially.
And Jonathan, here's the thing, and I'm so glad you said it, and it is very funny. If you look on screen, I can just see your head and your collar. It's brilliant. But I will say this to you. So a lot of the left are jumping up and down going, these people helped us. Other people are saying, we didn't have 100,000 translators. There was 1,200 special forces, and I stand by, as does this station, the fact that we should definitely help people who helped ourselves. I don't think the situation in Afghanistan was dealt with at all well. I completely agree with Matthew Torby that we went in after the Americans. The withdrawal was appalling. It's an absolute mess. But that guy just said to me, I'm not sticking up for the Taliban, they're revolting. They've killed 340 people. They knew about this from Facebook. The 23,900 who are single, you've got to add families to that. So it could be 100,000. This is not an exaggeration. Bob Seeley said it could be the size of a small town when it's all added up. Those people haven't been killed in 2 years. Those people were not vetted. Those people were not processed. They hadn't gone through, because this country doesn't seem to be able to process bloody people who come in. We just seem to be able to say, come in and we'll think about it. Come for a few years. In the present climate, JG, with everything that's going on, with people really struggling, and with, you know, all the problems that we see, this does add fuel to the fire, man. And it leads British people to saying the following, which is, how much do our government tell us the truth about? How many lies do they tell?
Well, look, this is the thing that worries me the most, is that lack of transparency breeds a lack of trust in politics, which is already, let's be frank, at a record low. I think my anger also is at the fact, and I say it again, that we knew the breach happened in, I think it was February 2022. It wasn't until August 2023 that seemingly ministers appeared to maybe be informed of such a breach, or indeed was passed up. So how is it that we've allowed elected officials who are there and responsible to on behalf of the taxpayer to go unknown as to what's gone on? This is stinks of a cover-up from the civil service. The fact that no one's head has rolled is
So you're
bizarre.
saying that the civil service, the MOD, did not tell any politician in the government for 18 months?
From the reading I've done, that's what I'm seemingly understanding. But of course, look, happy to be proven wrong if that's not the case. But what I don't like the fact is that it does indeed scream of the fact that there was some sort of high-level protection for civil servants. The fact that no individual was sacked. If any individual in a private company, let's say Talk, if they sent out the database and details to a rival broadcaster, that would have been a serious GDPR breach. It would have resulted most likely in a termination of that employee. How can it be in the private sector there is one rule, and yet in the civil service there is another?
And it adds, JG, it adds to what so many people think. They tell me on a daily basis, they say the post office scandal, nobody from authority will go to prison. One of the biggest stains on this country historically, that with the rape gang, finally we're going to have a national inquiry after all the trauma those poor people have gone through. They think that'll be a whitewash, and the British people will be saying exactly the same as this. They won't be saying we shouldn't be helping people who help this country. They'll be saying those on the list that hadn't been processed could be anybody, they could be anything. Farage has already stood up and said there's proof that some are sexual offenders and criminals. They are in our communities and in our countries. And I had another caveat, because I saw a thing from Johnny Mercer in the Telegraph there, and I completely agree with him. I don't always agree with him, but I do. How is it that these people are being homed in military bases? Bryce Norton, we have proof of that. And I can walk into my town on Saturday and see a 14-year veteran in dirty clothes begging for a sandwich. I don't care if this gets me thrown off air. That's a complete disgrace, man. That is not how you treat your own people. It can't be. It can't be, Jonathan.
No, it is disgraceful, Jeremy. You've hit the nail on the head, and the British people will be with you on this. And ultimately, the fact that we've been bringing thousands of people into the country under dark, essentially, let's be frank, without us knowing, and people seemingly must have been rightly concerned as to why there have been large amounts of people suddenly arriving within their local communities without any understanding as to how this had taken place. Is a serious concern. And as you say, I think it's important. There are, of course, people on that list that helped the British Armed Forces. And like you, I totally agree. Those people who literally served on the front line, helping our soldiers, deserve the protection. At the end of the day, they did right by us, we should do right by them. But as we know, there are thousands on that list who simply applied to try and come to the UK, but we had no records or evidence to suggest that they had helped our troops, and therefore we have no idea what their legitimate backgrounds are, or, let's be frank, illegitimate backgrounds, and therefore that has serious concerns around who is now being brought into the country and what security and vetting has been done on those individuals. It's just, it's dreadful that this has taken place. It's brought shame upon the civil service, shame upon the former Conservative government, shame on the current Labour government for allowing this super injunction
well,
to continue.
Let's just nail that if you're just tuning in, because we've watched today as Ben Wallace said I had to do it, and Reform of blame people and the Labour Party. Let's tell you about Sir Keir Starmer, shall I? In November, these very brave journalists who have fought for 2 years to tell this story to the British people who have a right to know it, went to court, and Starmer's government fought them and said it shouldn't be released. They are all complicit in this, and it does beg, and I said it earlier, Britons feel they can no longer speak their mind. Increasingly, they feel that free speech is under threat. They feel that... I bet you a majority of people listening to this show will finish tonight by going, what else don't we know? Now, governments, I'm sure, have to lie and bend the truth, and that's a reality of national security sometimes. But I think in this environment, when you consider that ministers were even briefing yesterday to the press saying, we're worried that people will riot over this. Of course people won't riot. I'm not talking about the far right or the far left. I'm talking about decent, hard-working, working-class, middle-class people who seemingly don't have any standing in this country anymore other than to be major taxpayers to pay for every mistake and botched up mess that I mean, look at the Prevent news today. Have you seen that? Prevent. It admits the government's anti-terrorist scheme, again a Tory thing, missed chances to save Sir David Amos's life and the Southport killers. I mean, Mike Graham makes a really salient point. Some would say it's flippant. It's called bloody Prevent, for God's sake, JG. It hasn't prevented the death of an MP, has it?
Well, I think one of the scary things in that report is that one of the individuals, I can't remember which one, was somehow cleared within one interview by Prevent of somehow being an extremist. How you can come to the conclusion in one interview is beyond me. And as you say, the amount of calls going into it, either there's an issue with Prevent that it's not staffed enough and not funded enough, and if we need to have a look at that, then that should be part of the discussion, or indeed we have to have another honest conversation. Is it fit for purpose? Is there a better way of doing this? And ultimately, again, goes back to the same point that people feel that their streets are unsafe, that we have people wandering around, particularly lots of men, and Baroness Casey in her report made this case, didn't she, that more and more of these grooming gangs are now involving illegal migrants who have come across on small boats. Their documents have been thrown overboard. We're having to take them at their word, who they are, how old they are, and where they come from, even though people like me wanted scientific age testing, even though people like me said you should immediately detain people, do not let them into hotels where they're allowed to freely walk in and out, and indeed, of course, then work in the black market too, and now seemingly playing a role in child rape gangs. It is absolutely disgusting. Again, a stain on both the Conservative and Labour Party's record, Jeremy. I'm not here to say the Conservative Party had it all right. You know me, I've been happy to be critical of my own government and the failings that we made. And I'm so despondent, and I can only imagine what people feel in the country now, and there's a real reason why, you know, Reform are going to carry on doing as well as they're doing, because they're tapping into something where the public have gone, we tried Labour, we've tried Conservative over and over again, overpromised, underdelivered, and most crucially, turned a blind eye to serious failings, whether that be on immigration, whether that be on law and order, and now whether that be on the case of actually deliberately keeping secret from the public billions of their hard-earned money being spent on enabling people to come from Afghanistan into this country under the cloak so that they couldn't find out what it was going on, because ultimately of a data breach where no one's head has rolled. It is utterly appalling and shocking.
You know me and I know you, so I'm not putting you on the spot, but I could put right now a Reform banner behind you, because the way that you speak, and many people have said this to me today, you won't like what I'm going to tell you, that this really is the most angry people on breakfast were saying that is absolutely me done forever with the Tories. Do you, it's been a year since you lost your seat, when you come on this station and you say Reform are speaking the language of the people, they are, and I'm sure they've been and will be stripped quite rightly and shredded. They need to put meat on the bone. But for me, a government should at least, or in fact a political party, should try and understand what's going on in the country, and rather than fob people off, should try and at least address those issues. I think that the Uni Party, whatever you want to call it, the Tories, the Labour, the Tories, I think they're complicit in so much. And I think that Nigel Farage genuinely is breathing life into belief. Is that something that you feel? Because just talking to you, the passion comes out of your mouth that you care about this country. I know you cared about your constituency. Is reform something you've thought about, JG?
Look, I've been a member of the Conservative Party, Jeremy, for 18 years, my entire adult life. Tragic as that may sound. I've never felt so despondent and disheartened with the Conservative Party, but having been a member for that long, seen the good, the bad and the ugly, I really want to believe that at some stage we're going to fully acknowledge our mistakes, really make a full-hearted apology to the British people and put forward policies that will absolutely chime with the electorate and hope beyond hope that they are willing to give us a go. But I completely understand and empathise why some of my former colleagues, like Jake Berry, have chosen to go to Reform UK. And of course, at times, I've looked at things and thought it could be quite tempting. But ultimately...
Have you had any conversations with Reform?
No, no conversations at all. No conversations at all. Look, for me, if someone from Reform wanted to ask me what I'm waiting to see, you know, what do they need to do? They need to put meat on the bone in terms of policy, really detail out what exactly they're going to do and how they're going to overcome the hurdles, particularly that they're going to face within the civil service, the judiciary, who are going to fight night and day to block what they want to do. Look at recruiting people. Who is going to be the future cabinet of a Reform UK government? It doesn't have to be all those inside Westminster. Who are the people that they're going to have stand as candidates in seats, and this will be their chancellor, this will be the Home Secretary, so we the public can get to know them and understand them. Let's see that continue.
Do you think Sir Jake Berry, who's on the show in 45 minutes, do you think he's a game changer for Reform? I do.
I think he's a very impressive individual. Jake is a really hard-working campaigner. He has a great ability also to raise money, and he understands the Red Wall, as well as obviously having fought for the country within cabinet and on the backbenches. He brings a lot of parliamentary experience that they haven't had before. But as I say, look, at this present time, Jeremy, I'm clinging on by my fingernails and fighting and holding on for the Conservative Party to finally turn a corner. But I've never felt so almost politically homeless in my lifetime.
Well, now, so can you, for me, would you rule out right now ever joining Reform? You can't, can you?
No.
You can't?
No, I can't, Jeremy. I would like to... Again, I'm going to fight tooth and nail for the Conservative Party and for the Conservative cause, but you can... Can you, if you say never say never, right? Like,
yeah.
If I said no, if I said I can rule it out, and then I look a bit of a donut in 12 months' time if I change my mind, wouldn't I? So
no, but it's one of the things you've been criticised. I've been criticised all my life. What I've always absolutely believed about you, JG, is your passion, and you cared about your constituents. I think you were fiercely loyal, like me. Genuinely, this is true. I've said it many times on this show. Brought up as a Tory. Was brought up with low taxation, strong military, police that you were scared of, not just laughed in the face of, borders. I think that we've got to a point in our history where a succession of politicians from all sides have tried, some good, some not so good, and I think so many catastrophic mistakes, and this is another one, I mean, a bloody cover-up. I just feel, in the last election, I don't think Labour won. I think the British public had stopped listening to the Tories, you lot, right? I think that I've said it before, I think Rishi Sunak could have offered us all £1 million and we still have put a cross against the Labour. I genuinely think that would have happened. What Nigel Farage has going for him is it's a fresh and different voice. I've heard all the critics, I've heard all the people say, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I think it'll come to a point where people go, are you telling me that anything could be worse than the last few years? And I think that is what a lot of people will tap into. But listen, mate, your honesty...
Well, one thing quickly, Jeremy, I would say is, my preferred option is the Conservative Party and Reform Party come together. I prefer these two parties to merge, work together, unite the right and therefore be able to take apart this dreadful Labour government that within a year I'm just flabbergasted at the errors, the mistakes and the lack of preparedness for government that they've shown and demonstrated. And Sir Keir Starmer, Labour need to realise this, as long as that man is leading their party, they haven't got a cat in hell's chance of winning the next election.
That's why I don't want him. That's why I don't want him out. I want him to lurch from problem to problem. What's the alternative, Angela? JG, we thank you for coming on, my friend. We really do. It's great to see it. Just great to see your beard and your face and the collar of your shirt, nothing else. Jonathan Gullis, former Conservative Party chair there on Talk Drive, saying he cannot ever rule out joining Reform. He's hanging on to his membership of the Tories by his fingertips. Back in 3.
The first time we've even been given this information, the first time the public's even been told what this breakdown looks like, that 1 in 6 people who are claiming universal credit aren't British. And we are a very, very generous country and people, but it's not viable to do this. It's not sustainable and it's not affordable for us to pay for everybody who comes here on the basis that they're going to contribute and then either stops working or falls on hard times or whatever it might be. People like that, unfortunately, will need to go home.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
5:25. I'm going to go straight to the deputy political editor of The Sun. Get my sign up, please. Ryan Saber, good afternoon. I heard that you were responding to what I just was talking to Jonathan Gullis about. Jonathan Gullis, former deputy chair of the Tory party. I don't think I've seen him sounding as down. He described himself just then as hanging on by his fingertips to a belief that the Tories can ever come back. And he would not rule out at some point in the future joining Reform. Your response to that, Ryan Saby?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to say that I was surprised by his comments, but I think when you speak to lots of Conservative MPs and ex-MPs, many would see themselves in that position, actually. Those who stood by the party through thick and thin over the years, over decades almost, and now they find themselves in a position where the party is really, really struggling. They haven't found their feet. The current leader doesn't seem to be firing on, when I say firing on all cylinders, firing on any cylinders. And I think that is where the frustration lies. And you just heard it in Jonathan Gullis's voice there, that he's thinking, he's clearly seriously thinking about jumping ship, moving from the Conservatives to Reform, because he likes the sound of what Nigel Farage is talking about, and it's as clear as day.
Just after 6, by the way, people, Sir Jake Berry, the highest profile defector, ex-chairman of the Tory party, cabinet minister, joins me on Drive. He defected. I think the point is, Ryan, you're closer to it than I am, but we have this on a daily basis. I just said it 10 minutes ago, you heard me, I was brought up a Tory, in a Tory household, and there were certain things that the Tory party, talked about. It wasn't giving union paymasters 30%. It was stringent fiscal business and low taxation and all the things that we were sort of brought up to believe in. When they left office, none of that was in my mind, happening. And I think when I decided to vote Reform, genuine hand, this is not this station, this is me, was when I heard people in the Tory party say that what Nigel Farage and his colleagues were saying was far right. You see, I didn't think it was far right. I thought a lot of what he said, I'm sure he's made mistakes and will make mistakes, and I agree with Jonathan, we need meat on the bone, but so much of what he said resonated with sort of working class and middle class people in middle England, for want of a much better phrase. And I think that Nigel Farage, yes, he has to wheedle out the unprofessionals, he has to get together a crack team, but I think that what they are doing, which no other party seems to be doing, and you've got your finger and your ear to the ground in Westminster, they are talking about the things that like the Sun newspaper, that the British people give a toss about. They don't want... Today, Starmer's blaming the Tories. I mean, you talk about political cojones. Mike Graham made a great point. Are you telling me that the leader of the opposition, so terrified that the Prime Minister's going to go, well, you lot brought in the super injunction, didn't bring up the Afghan scandal in Prime Minister's question time? That's a dereliction of duty, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jeremy. I was discussing with colleagues and MPs before Prime Minister's questions whether Kemi would actually bring it up. And we all came to the conclusion that she probably wouldn't, because, as you say, you can tar the same brush with both main parties. Where does she go? And I think every time that she would have asked a question about it, Keir Starmer would have sort of weaseled his way out of it.
I'd have looked him straight in the face and said, yeah, we made mistakes patently, but I'll put this to you, Prime Minister. In November, when the newspapers, fair play to them, wanted to bring this out, they went to court, your government fought to keep the super injunction in place. Explain to me that. But you don't get that from her. You get them both going, oh, you this, you that. What do you make as a newspaper and as a reporter? What do you make? I mean, this Afghan scandal, of course, the left are jumping up and saying, all these people helped us. I wouldn't doubt that many have, but there were 1,200 personnel, army personnel. Were there 22,700 translators? Bob Seeley, the ex-Tory MP, intimated today that if you add family numbers together, this could pass 100,000. And it begs the one question, forget the money even, it begs the same question that immigration is on the lips of every single person in Britain, which is, so you've let another 23,000 people into this country who, A, you know nothing about, and B, you're going to treat better than British people, I'm afraid. Veterans on the streets, for example, who can't get a meal or can't get a home. It doesn't add up. The British people won't stomach it. They won't, Ryan. They won't.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you come back to the Nigel Farage point about immigration, a big cohort of numbers coming over. And I think the problem was, who was able to scrutinise the government and the opposition over this? Because this was just kept in a vacuum for the best part of 2 or 3 years. And I think that's where the frustration lies, because our democracy relies on sort of open justice, open democracy, trying to put, the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, the Home Secretary, whoever it may well be, on the spot. And that just wasn't able to happen. But these costs could run into, and there's talk of this possibly being, costing £7 billion. Absolutely staggering. Where are they staying? Is it asylum hotels? Where
are they finding the £7 billion from? Because we heard on the show yesterday that a group of these Afghans who have already been here are getting left-wing human rights lawyers on the British taxpayer to sue the government for the position they put them in, despite the fact they're here, and that could cost a further £1 billion. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah, no, when I heard this yesterday, I thought one of the key things that they could push the government for, and they will clearly try and get some compensation on, is on the data breach and their information getting out there and getting into the hands of people who it possibly shouldn't have done. So you can actually see these lawyers now getting on trying to find out who these Afghans are, and trying to represent them, because they will know they will get a payday, and the Afghans involved in this will also get a payday.
What do you say to the people? And I think this is a very, very salient point. So somebody rang the show yesterday, and Mike did more of this on breakfast, and I had a couple of messages just now. The left will go, 23,900 people helped you, and you owe it to them to bring them to safety. Now, all of those people were going through the process, so we don't know whether they would have succeeded and fulfilled the criteria or they would not have. But the Taliban announced yesterday that because this information 2 years ago went on Facebook, that they've known who these 23,900 people are. So I ask you this from The Sun. Why haven't they been killed already if their lives are such in danger? Have I missed the point, Ryan Saby?
I don't think you have. I think that there was clearly, I think when you very, very first look at this, there was a risk, and I think perhaps there could have been an interim injunction while the government actually looked at this, looked at the individuals, and actually brought back to Britain those people who actually helped us out. But it seems like the longer this has been left, that the Taliban have got their eyes on this. They know who these people are, and they haven't seemed to have acted on any of this. So this is why the injunction was actually lifted in the end. So
what's your view I'm really interested in this, actually. What's your view? Because in effect, the British state used a sort of celebrity gag order, this would be my description, to cover up a blunder, of which nobody seems to have taken the rap for.
Yeah, I think that's exactly to the point. And I think one of the interesting things to look at is the timing. So when this all happened, 2022, 23, you're kind of on the horizon. You can see the next general election on the horizon. So this interim injunction, this sort of turns into, a standard injunction, turns into a super junction, one of those ones where you can't actually talk about. Was this done because the Conservative government knew, within months or a year or so, there was going to be a general election? Now, was this covered up to some extent for political means? And if it was, there are serious questions to answer. And that's why there are going to be some, committees going to be looking at this and bringing people in to actually question them. I think it probably needs to go further than that. It almost feels like there needs to be a full public inquiry so we get people talking about this on oath. I just think it's one of those issues. It is so big. There are so many issues to it and so many angles to it.
You're very right, though. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe you're Sunak and you go, literally, I'm going to be out in 12 months anyway. But, nothing from Sunak. Starmer as well. Why did you fight it in November? Just the British people. I was seeing a poll today. I'm sure you've seen this. Many Brits are beginning to feel that free speech is under threat. They can no longer speak their mind, and many people texting and ringing this show today are saying, what else have they covered up? What else have they not told us? What else does a government do? And it's just like, again, on a daily basis, the post office scandal, the grooming rape gang scandal, this. I think, I said it to Jonathan Gullis, I just think the British people, I remember the expense scandal, I remember all that and all politics is... I think the British people are that hacked off with the quality of politics that Farage, and it might be somebody else, but because he seems to be speaking the language, I think his figures are just going to continue to build and build and build. I really do.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you look at those percentages that the Reform Party are getting, whether it's in the mid-20s or so, and I think that Sir Keir Starmer has to be... he has to look out for that new Jeremy Corbyn party. There was a poll I saw the other night that had them about 15%. Now, whether it'd actually be that much in a general election, I don't think that's really the point. I think it would take a sizable percentage away from the sort of natural Labour vote that Sir Keir Starmer should be worried. And we keep saying that Keir doesn't really know whether to turn right towards reform, turn left, to try and hold on to that type of constituency of people who want those a lot of money spent on welfare. And now he's got another party coming along as well, the Zara Sultanas, the Corbyn types, and they're just going to add to his problems.
And it's quite interesting as well, because we've talked, haven't we, incessantly with you guys from The Sun about how, we were saying 6 months ago, this appalling government could get in again via the back door because the vote will split. I am of the absolute belief now, and I could be totally wrong, you'll bring this back and throw it in my face, I think the Tories are... I'm not going to say finished, but I don't think that they will be a force compared to Reform. I believe if we were doing an election right now, Reform would win a majority against all of the parties. I really do. I think the Tories, I don't know what they have to do. I think the Labour Party are, frankly, a disgrace. But I think the British people, I think they want honesty. I think they want integrity. I think they just want the bleeding truth, man. I think they're sick and tired of having stuff dressed up or being talked down or being told what they think. I think that most people I meet of all ages go, just tell me the truth and I'll deal with it, for Christ's sake. Don't lie to me anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think as well as having all those issues where you talk about whether it's the post office scandal, whether it's the Afghan scandal, you have this situation where for the last 15 years, people's sort of living standards haven't gone up. No. The cost of living is really, really expensive for, for people all over the country. And I think that just feeds into it. And then you've got the situation of immigration, communities being torn apart. I think you just throw all those things together. And, Britain, people will say it's a different place than what it was 20, 25 years ago. And they want, a different type of politician to try and solve everything.
Couldn't agree more. We love having you on, Ryan. We know you're busy. We really appreciate it. Ryan Saby, Deputy Political Editor for The Sun, joining us. They always do The Sun. They're right on the... Let me tell you, they're right on the money. Of course they're right on the bleeding money. Your response to this Afghan thing has been extraordinary. Keep the calls coming. 0344 419 1000. You text to 87222. I'm back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Man here from 7 o'clock. I'm merely his fluff for its drive on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. So many of you responding to this Afghan scandal. Andy in Cornwall. Reform may not have any meat on the bone or great depth of experience, but oh my, look at what we have now. 14 years of preparation for pure and utter incompetence. Give me, please God, a fresh start with fresh ideas. Jonathan Gullis is having a laugh, isn't he? The Tories are finished and Reform will not join with the Tory party. He forgets the Tory gave us the Labour Party with the way they filled this country with migration over 14 years. To be fair, Chris, to Jonathan Gullis, OK, and I'm being straight, I'm always straight with you, I think he is beginning to seriously question. And maybe he's quite right to seriously question. There have been plenty of people in the Tory party. After 6, Sir Jake Berry was the Tory party chairman, who I know said to Rishi Sunak, you're not the right person, I don't want anything to do with you. And he's now joined Reform. Let's say good afternoon to Anne in Yorkshire. I really feel for Jonathan Gullis. He's such a nice man. I voted Conservative since I was 18. I'm in my 50s and now I vote Reform. It feels like a betrayal, even though they betrayed us. When you believe in something so much, it's really hard to leave. Talk. If Farage lets Gullis in, I will vote Labour for the first time Blair got in, says Fern in Glasgow. Unfortunately, says Clive in Solihull, that's the posh part of Birmingham where they get out of the bath to have a wee. The British people are sick and tired of apologies. What we want is an intelligent and effective government that does something for us, not people who will not integrate and only scrounge off us. Jake Berry. Why is someone who was central to a party that betrayed the country good for reform? He can answer that himself. At 6 o'clock, Martin Waddington, cracking grooming effort on Jonathan Gullis. He looks right on the brink of joining reform. Keep it up, son. Martin in Whitley Bay. I don't like the word grooming. Matthew in Sunderland. You're looking very tan today, Mr. Carl. Have you been taking tips from Donald Trump? We have a beautiful... I can't do an impression of Donald Trump. What is an impression? We have a beautiful, beautiful haircut. No, it's crap. Hello to Peter Melton Keynes. Nice. 7 billion divided by 24,000 people is nearly 300,000 in person. How is it so expensive? Smash the gangs. The government are the bleeding gangs. This from my mate Rob, who is not in Newcastle. It's in Mallorca. But this man really is proud to be British and cares about this country and listens to this. He put, the UK. Jez, the government didn't just lie to the public. Here's the worst news. To bury a £7 billion liability from the Afghan migrant scandal, they misled the bond markets, the Bank of England, the Office for National Budgetary Responsibility, the National Audit Office, Parliament, the Treasury Select Committee, the Public Accounts Committee. And every institution responsible for overseeing the UK economy or holding our debt was lied to. This isn't just political dishonesty, it's fiscal fraud, it's Banana Republic territory. If a business executive fiddled the books like this, they'd be in prison. And here's the question, says Rob. Why would any ally, investor or global partner ever trust this country or our figures again? And more importantly, and this is the question that everybody says, what the hell else are the government hiding? Let's head to Lincolnshire. It's very flat. Louise, a very good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Drive.
Afternoon, first-time caller. I'm just wondering why people haven't mentioned our soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan. My son-in-law at the time was shot in the back by people he was trying to help.
Well, no, I had a text that you won't believe just before you did that, and it said, "Hi, Jez. I served in Afghan with the army, and as a contractor, I remember a big threat at the time was what was called green on blue, where the Afghans being trained by the Brits would suddenly turn violent and shoot the trainers. It got so bad that some Afghans under training were not allowed in the end to have access to weapons whilst being trained, and now we're letting these people into our country," which would rather back up what you just said, Louise.
Yeah, exactly true. I mean, what the hell are we doing with this country and these people? I just don't get it.
The government's official line is that 23,900 people helped us. Now, whilst I accept that there were 1,200 guaranteed special forces, there's no proof at all that the remaining 22,000, by the way, plus their families and friends, could be 100,000, helped us. But more than that, we don't know who the hell they are, Louise. We don't have any vetting process. They're just allowed to come in under the cloak of darkness on an unmarked government plane and integrate into society. And while we're at it, because of your son-in-law, I walk past veterans in the street, living on the street, whilst migrants are in hotels, and I get told that my language is wrong. How is my language wrong when that man, those men, those women fought for their king and their queen, and they're on the streets? How does that work?
My son-in-law left a son, a 4-year-old, without a father. This is what these people forget, and they don't talk about it often enough. I think it's disgraceful.
Louise, I really appreciate your call and your honesty, and thank you for being a first-time caller. Keep listening to Talk, and my regards and love to your family. Thank you. 5:45. Let's head to London. Michael, you're on Talk Drive. Good evening.
All right, Jez.
Not bad, bit annoyed, you know.
Yeah, I know,
on
yeah,
its
I'm
arse.
still trying and all. Right, what it is, I've been saying this, I love Mike's show and all. Sorry, I love your show and all, but...
sorry, hold on a second. So sorry.
No, Mike's show's great. I love it, right?
Right, so you love Mike's show, but you don't like this show?
No, of course I love your show. Don't worry about that. I miss.
Which one do you prefer?
I've got to say Mike. Sorry, Jez. But I like when you're both together. If that's any good. Sorry, Jez. Sorry, mate. But listen, July the 3rd, 2025.
His line's gone dead. What's he saying? I can't hear a I'm joking. Listen, I am only here. I'm messing. I'm only here in reference to the dear great... Shush!
Get on this one.
Shush,
right?
shush.
You can't write this.
Go on then.
Town Hall in Islington is giving away 500,000 for asylum seekers to integrate. This is from the July the 3rd, 2025. And it says in here, and it's a quote, more than 500,000 is given to immigrants, and who decides to get the money, the refugees themselves. They decide where it goes. Then underneath that, yeah, seriously, it's get the Islington Gazette. I feel like posting it here and showing you exactly what's going on.
All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. Listen, we're going to look into that, Mike, and I really appreciate a call. I was only joking with you, mate. I'm only here because of MG. He's a legend. But do me a favour, stay on the line, because we'd like to investigate that a bit. The Islington Gazette, you've named it. Let's look into that and do a bit more. But, mate, your support of talk means a lot. We know. A bit like reform, I guess, but that's not me being political. I know that we're speaking about the things that the British people want to talk about. The government cover-up, whether it's the Tories or Labour, £7 billion, and we can't afford to allow old people to have their heating turned on. £7 billion for Afghan refugees, right? For what? For our own people, reservists to be on the ex-veterans on the streets. This is more than right. This is your. Are you still there, Mike?
Yeah, I am. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Right. Listen to me. Come on, Islington Council, right? 500 grand has been set aside from town hall coffers for refugees, migrants and others in Islington seeking asylum to help them integrate. Who gets the cash is actually being decided, Jesus, by refugees themselves. A panel of people who themselves have gone through the trauma of asylum in seeking refuge from oppression in their homeland. The money is earmarked by Islington Council for projects that focus on issues like trauma recovery, training for skilled jobs or to cohesion programmes to integrate new arrivals. This was in the Islington Gazette on the 19th of June. That's what you're paying your council tax for, boy.
There you go, son. And you know what? They're only buying back 900 properties who have paid, you know, like say if you've paid a right to buy,
yeah,
they're buying them back, 900, and who are they for? Asylum seekers.
What do you say to the people who say that you, me, this station, people who talk like this are being,
I'll tell you, I'll try digging holes and see how hard it is. Because I don't see a lot of people digging holes, and I've done that, and I've got sciatica now and everything, but I've literally dug holes and all that for a living.
Worked all your life and you feel like you're at the back of the queue. Let me ask you the most important question. What's your favourite show on Talk?
You.
Love you very much. Get off, nice man. 11 minutes to 6, still drive.
We have a moral obligation to ensure that those who worked with British forces were protected. We have a moral obligation to ensure that as many of them as possible are brought to safety. This is a fraught and dangerous enterprise in which individual British soldiers put themselves at risk in order to help people come to this country. So in that respect, well, of course there are regrettable elements. The decisions taken both by the last government and this government are right.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 9 minutes or 8 minutes, so I don't know what time it is. It's almost 6 o'clock. Push the button, Ames.
Sport Summary on Talk.
Here we say a very good afternoon. We sent him to Coventry. You'll see what I've done there. He is live in Coventry in his Manchester United hoodie. Anil Kandola, how are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, you know, at this stage of my career, I'm still early on, Jeremy, so I have to do all of the hard yards, like, you know, being sent to
How's your mum? How's your mum?
Yeah, very well, thank you. She's a massive fan, so...
His mum likes me. His mum says he's all right. That's how old I bleeding well am. Mate, I'm gonna throw a couple of curveballs in, remember that. But let's start with the Lions' first test in Australia, Saturday. Can't wait for this. Sky Talk Sport as well. Has the team been announced?
No, not officially at this stage anyway, is my understanding. But one massive thing I wanted to talk to you about, Jeremy, I really wanted to get your opinion on this. Look, I think it's the first time since the 1890s, if my research serves me correctly, that there will be no Welsh players to feature within the first squad. So, of course, look, it's British and Irish Lions. I think this is probably the only time, or one of the only times, that all of the countries that surround us, England, Scotland, Wales, all that kind of stuff, can all unite and really be on the same sort of page and support frame. But does it really matter? Do we need certain amounts of players from certain countries, or do you think it is just a simple case?
No, I realised this country was on its arse when I went to a school match some time ago, and honestly, the sports teacher at my son's school was stood on the side. And my son's school is playing another school. Ryan, I don't jest, he went, come on both teams. Sorry, a bit old-fashioned. You play the team, you play the best team. Wales have been the worst team in the home nations for a long, long time. Scotland, third, England second, Ireland by way, far and away above the best team in the British Isles. Andy Farrell was the Irish coach. He's the British Lion. He's got to go with the team to win. You shouldn't be ticking boxes for what? So people go, oh, we've got 3 Welshmen and 3... No, sorry, I nearly swore. Rubbish to that, mate. Play the team that wins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Jeremy. Look, you're not one to shy away from a strong opinion, but I always seem to agree with you, and this is no different. At the end of the day, they want to put themselves in the best position. Of course, the last time they toured Australia, they won the series 2-1. Of course, in this country, we're very synonymous with putting a little bit of pressure on our heroes, should we call them, but I think this will be no different for the British and Irish Lions. So exciting. Of course, TalkSport's exclusive coverage, should I say. It's reached the climax. The 3 test matches against Australia are due to start only in a couple of days on the 19th.
Can't wait. Build up to the big fight on Saturday night. Daniel Dubois against Alexander. Some side news today. Jim Fury, it's a golfer. Tyson Fury in the gym and wants to fight Usyk again. Is that likely to happen?
Well, look, I think we can just never keep up with Tyson Fury's career. Is he retired? Is he not? Is he at the level required? Is he not? It all seems to be a bit of a farce, to be honest with you. I always was a massive fan of Tyson Fury, what he stands for, his story personally, from the depths he's almost raised himself from to reach the heights of boxing, but ultimately to stay relevant in only one way, which is to say you retire, then not. And as soon as a big fight comes around, you want to put your name in the hat. I think this isn't exactly Tyson Fury's time. This is Daniel Dubois' time, and I think it's a massive testament to him to be in this fight. It's a meteoric rise, if you're asking me.
Met Daniel some months ago. Met him. Good kid. Yeah. Wish him the best. I happen to think Usyk is probably the best pound for pound at that weight there has been, but he deserves his moment. Very quickly, a prediction, Dubois or Usyk?
I really, really would like to say Dubois, but I think Usyk, as you've already said, he is just on another level, a machine at the highest level in terms of operating within that ring. So I do think it'll be a fantastic fight. Of course, TalkSport have the live commentary this Saturday night, but unfortunately for English and British fans, I think Usyk probably will win again against Daniel Dubois this weekend.
Thanks, mate. Quickly to football. Liverpool seem to have billions to spend. I can't say the guy's name. They wanted to buy Alexander Isak from Newcastle, 120 million. They've already spent about 200. That's not happening. So he's going after somebody that Newcastle wanted. What's his name?
Hugo Ekitike is the name.
Well done. 86 million quid. Where's the money coming from? Liverpool are absolutely flush, man.
I know it. You almost have to just tip your hat in admiration in terms of the waves and the moves they're making within this transfer window. Look, they won the Premier League with quite some ease last season, but they're not resting on their laurels. They're strengthening in all positions, it seems. And look, as we know in football, once the pounds start mounting up, so does the pressure. So I think Arne Slot, the manager of Liverpool, will be desperate to get his side to become only the 4th team in Premier League history to retain the Premier League title. So yeah, whether it's Alexander Isak or Hugo Ekitike, they're looking to strengthen in some style. So it's already set to be a monumental transfer window ahead of what will be almost certainly a very memorable new Premier League season.
I hate to talk about Sunderland because I'm a secondary Newcastle fan. Granit Xhaka, who was okay at Arsenal and then went to be absolutely fantastic at Bayer Leverkusen, linked with Sunderland. That would be some buy. No wonder they said no to Jordan Henderson. If you get Granit Xhaka and you knew in the Premiership, that's a good signing, isn't it?
Absolutely, Jeremy. This is exactly the type of signing Sunderland need, not necessarily just for ability, but also that highly proven Premier League experience, as you've already alluded to, at Bayer Leverkusen. He was a real key figure in their heroics, if we're being perfectly honest. I think they only lost one game throughout that whole season under Xavi Alonso. So I think this will be a superb moment for Sunderland. If they can get signings like this through the door, then wow, they'll put themselves in real good stead.
Can't wish the Mackhams luck. I can't wish the Mackhams luck. It's not in the spirit. Now listen, Royal Portrush tomorrow morning at 6:35. Padraig Harrington will hit the first shot in the 157th Open Golf Championship. My mate Lee Westwood has made it through final qualifying. He will be there. I want your tip. I've given 3 tips, okay? I believe Justin Rose... there's a moment in my head to think to Justin Rose's moment with destiny is about to happen. I would absolutely say to people, look at John Rahm and look at Sepp Straka. That's all I'm going to say, those 3. If Westwood wins, I'm not coming to work for a month. Who do you fancy for the Open Championship, boy?
Do you know what, Jeremy? It's quite funny you say that in terms of not turning up. I didn't actually feature on your show for quite some time after Emma Raducanu was knocked out of Wimbledon. So look, we both have to face up to the reality sometimes. But look, I think this is again a massive tournament. Look, Scotty Scheffler's in there, of course. His comments have been making the round certainly at the moment in terms of where does he find his motivation, and it's how hard it is to be at the top when there's always another one on the horizon. But yeah, like you've already said, Rahm is a massive shout for it, and what a story that would be, of course.
The biggest story would be McIlroy, who at 16 beat the course record at Portrush. Last time it was there, he was so wound up he missed the cut. That would be amazing on the back of the Masters, but it's going to be Mrs. Kyle knows, 4 days not talking, sitting in front of the golf. It'll be phenomenal. Anil, listen, mate, as ever, thank you. We sent you to Coventry and you're still speaking. Did you see that was a crap joke? Regards to the family, boy. We'll see you very soon. Thank you very much indeed. Right, almost 6 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom on the verge of the final hour of Talk Drive. And Sir Jake Berry, former Conservative Party chairman and a man who, very high profile, told Sunak to do one, and last week defected to Reform UK. What do you want to ask Sir Jake Berry? Reform's newest recruit, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. The news at 6 is next on Talk Drive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Final hour of Drive on Talk. We are across the UK on the home of common sense and free speech. So many people responding on text. Why does it? This is very interesting. Loads of you. Dave says, why do so many MPs seem to hate the UK so much? Darren, how do we trust any government who are complicit with cover-ups? How do we know the 7-7 bombers didn't slip through the net? This is interesting. Gordon in Burnham-on-Sea. It's 15 years ago today. One of my best friends was killed by an IED in Afghanistan, and that's the people we are letting in without knowing anything about it. Margaret in Cheshire, good evening to you. She's so upset with this country, she thinks the King needs to jump in. That's not going to happen. Paul Marshall, he's in Lincolnshire. Reform shouldn't accept too many ex-Tories. Us, the people, are watching closely. We want fresh patriots, people with life skills who don't have anything to gain. I say very good afternoon. 2, Reform's latest defectee, very high profile, former Conservative Party chairman, a friend of mine. Delighted to have him here. Sir Jake Berry, good evening.
Good evening, John. I'm so pleased to be back on the show with you. It's fantastic.
How well do you look? Have you been on the Ozempic? What's going on here?
Do you know what? It's being out of Parliament. It's getting away from the subsidised beer and the subsidised canapes and food. My wife has had me on a strict regime of get up early in the morning, take the dog for a walk, so I'm feeling well.
Good man.
She's keeping me fit and healthy.
I know you were on with Mike. I haven't had a chance to speak to you. We've been all over the place. Let's just ask you when was the moment when a lot of people will look at reform and will go, this is just a fad? Myself, I voted for them, I've been honest with you in the past, because I felt they were speaking the language that the Tory party used to speak, and they were suddenly being accused of being far right, which I don't see. They've had organisational problems, they've had critics, they've had some fallings out with Rupert Lowe, and then the other one whose name I can't remember, who suspended himself. Why'd you make the move?
Look, so it's a big thing changing political party. I've been a Conservative supporter for over 30 years. I'd got to the point, genuinely, where I looked at this country and everything is going so wrong. I think Britain is broken. And I got to the point, my wife and I, we've got 3 kids, you know, we were saying, is our next move to leave Britain? But genuinely,
really?
We were sat at home saying, the NHS doesn't work. Crime, I was mugged a couple of weeks ago in the street. We had an issue with one of our children in a play park where someone came in with a knife. Crime is out of control. Public services don't work. And we were at that point, we were saying to each other, look, we really don't want to do this, but so many people we know have moved to Portugal or to Italy or to the UAE, Dubai or wherever it may be. And we sort of had a real chat. And I think, like, couples do this, whether, you know, couples sit at home and go, what are we going to do next? And we both decided, look, Britain's worth fighting for. And I thought that, you know, I don't think the Conservative Party have the answer. I think they are part of the problem. I think they messed it up. And I've been really honest and said, you know, I was part of that too, but we can talk about...
Well, let's be honest, for me to stick up for you for once, right? Because it's OK to tell the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very unusual in politics, Jeremy.
You told Richie Sunak to shove any offer of a job where the sun don't shine because you knew he was the wrong man, you didn't want anything to do with it.
Well, he was a bloody terrible Prime Minister,
but I don't think people would know that. And when you apologise, they need to know that you walked into his office and you went, listen, mate, you're not the right person, I don't want anything to do with it. You weren't sacked, you told him where to go.
My exact words were, thank you, I won't serve. But look, and the British people can smell that. They can smell he was the right person. That's why they rejected him and the Conservatives. And so I got to that point and I look at what reform stands for and what unites. Really interesting to hear from your person who sent me a message from Lincolnshire. You know, I am an ex-Tory. What unites people who are coming into reform, from, you know, lifelong Labour voters in Scotland to people who supported the Liberal Democrats to people who've been in the Conservative Party? It is a party that is there to represent people who believe in Britain.
Yeah.
People who want Britain to be better. A party that listens to the public and says, look, we know things are bad and we're not going to try all these political game playings and, you know, lines to take and not answering the questions. We're going to confront the issues. I think we've got to be honest that some things will take a long time to fix because Britain's gone so far down the wrong road.
What's in all honesty?
Yeah, confront the issues. But it's really interesting. I was watching an interview with Zia Youssef, actually, who's been very influential in reform. And someone said to him, look, well, the problem with Nigel Farage is he doesn't have enough policies. you know, what's his policy on this, what's his policy on that? He said, well, number one, reform isn't just Nigel Farage, but the policy in the reform is, whatever question you ask us, we will say, is this in the best interests of Britain?
Yep.
And if the answer's yes, we'll do it. If the answer's no, we won't. And if look at that.
Did they come for you, or did you go to them?
Well, it was a bit of both. It was a bit like a dance. But I'd known Nigel Farage for a long time. We actually started talking about elections in Wales, because I think Reform got a really good chance in Wales, and it was just it sort of developed over time. For quite a long time, I'd been very, very unhappy with the Conservative Party and the sort of things they were doing. You know, I voted against Rishi's crazy smoking ban, which I just couldn't believe a Conservative Prime Minister was taking freedoms away. I voted against his Windsor framework deal, which I just thought was terrible and let the people of Northern Ireland down. I voted against large parts of the Rwanda bill to try and get him to toughen that up. I had just decided that he and the Conservative Party, and I'm sorry to say, not that I think she's a bad person, the new leader of the Conservative Party and the Labour Party just don't have what it takes.
Well, she didn't even ask about the Afghan thing. We'll ask about that in a minute. Now, a couple of things. What did Boris say?
Look,
Have you fallen out with him?
We have not fallen out, but one of the good ways of staying friends with people is keeping private conversations private.
No, that's fair enough, which is why we're, yeah. Now, it hasn't all been plain sailing, has it? Because, I mean, it would be fair to say that some of your views, including net zero, has already attracted criticism.
Well, I think the thing about that is, first of all, I understand that the Conservative Party wants to make it hard for people to leave. I think a lot of people are leaving anyway. So when you switch parties, people come out and slam you for things. But what I find extraordinary about it, of all the things I've done, and I've made loads of mistakes, the thing that people seem to have latched on is that I'm some pro-net zero zealot. And actually,
Are you?
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm a pro-job zealot. I always said with net zero, well, if we're going to have it, let's try and create some bloody jobs through it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't agree with bankrupting the country.
No.
And I was looking back, funnily enough, because I was thinking, have I said things in the past that would make people believe this? And I was looking back at a post by Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, that described me in only believing in levelling up through reintroducing fossil fuels, because I was a massive backer of reopening coal mines in Cumbria. Alok Sharma, the man who cried at COP26, described me as completely irresponsible and denying the science. So, look, you can accuse me of being many things, but I don't think it's realistic to say that I'm pro-net zero. I think, you know...
I like your comment about bankrupt the country. Now, you talked to me just then. You said that you were on the edge. Half an hour ago, I had your former deputy chairman, Jonathan Gullis. Have a watch and have a listen to this, because this, to me, is a man on the edge. Have a listen, have a watch. Is reform something you've thought about, JG?
Look, I've been a member of the Conservative Party, Jeremy, for 18 years, my entire adult life. Tragic as that may sound. I've never felt so despondent and disheartened with the Conservative Party, but having been a member for that long, seen the good, the bad and the ugly, I really want to believe that at some stage we're going to fully acknowledge our mistakes, completely understand and empathise why some of my former colleagues, like Jake Berry, have chosen to go to Reform UK. And of course, at times, I've looked at things and thought it could be quite tempting, but ultimately...
Have you had any conversation? Have you had any conversations with the Reform?
No conversations at all. No conversations at all. Look, at this present time, Jeremy, I'm clinging on by my fingernails and fighting and holding on for the Conservative Party to finally turn a corner. But I've never felt so almost politically homeless in my lifetime.
Would you rule out right now ever joining Reform? You can't, can you?
No.
You can't?
No, I can't, Jeremy. You know, can you? If you say never say never, right?
Yeah.
If I said no, if I said I can rule it out, and then I look like a bit of a donut in 12 months' time if I change my mind, wouldn't I?
Genuinely, whatever you think of Jonathan Gullis, he looks broken of a man who has believed in something for all of his adult life and realises it's gone.
And look, how refreshingly honest. It's so, look, I just think that was a heartfelt sort of interview, and, you know, congratulations to you and Jonathan. Both of you, I think, takes two to tango, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know. I genuinely don't know if any of the Conservative colleagues are talking to Reform. I think what the party is really clear about is that it's not going to be Conservative Party 2.0. It doesn't want to be the sort of the home for every single
disillusioned
sort of cast off. They've got enough of them. They've already had me, maybe.
No, but it's also important to point out, right? And I've done this long enough, and I'm not just saying this because we're mates. There's plenty of people who still come on this show and will not accept that the Tories messed up big time, that the British public had stopped listening. They also, the public, have a right to know that there are politicians who are not just switching sides, but who fought against their own government for a long, long time. And they might see you as the ex-chairman, but the truth is you did vote against. You did tell Sunak where to go.
Yeah, and look, there's other things.
You had a ministerial career.
When Boris Johnson was doing his COP26, I think it was, that they didn't have, I was massively critical of that. I described it as a Vanity Fair, which it absolutely was. It was absolutely absurd. But where Jonathan is right, and what he will do in his future is a matter for him, is this idea that I don't think the Conservative Party has accepted how badly wrong they got it. And the truth is that, a lot of, it's not bad to change your mind. No. In fact, politicians should learn from mistakes. If we want a decent country, whichever party you're in, you should make a mistake and you should say, you know what, I won't make the same mistake again. And what we're hearing from the Conservative Party now isn't that they got it wrong, is that they weren't, the British people for some reason didn't understand them. It's almost like they think they didn't shout loud
Absolutely.
enough.
Let's talk about the main news story, because to me, this sums up. I mean, I've told everybody that I voted Reform because they started saying the things that I believed in. And then the Tories jumped up and said, oh, you're going to get the Labour in because you're far right. No, you're missing the point. Today, this Afghan scandal, first of all, did you know about it?
No clue whatsoever.
Right.
Never heard of it.
So, of course,
I read it in the Daily Mail when it broke last night. I don't know if they were the first.
So obviously we've been covering this story. It's all anybody wants to talk about. We can talk about how there were 1,200 special forces. Do we believe there were 20,000 translators? Should we have been there in the first place? All of that, to me, is irrelevant. None of these people were processed. The truth of the matter is, under the cloak of darkness in unmarked planes over the last 18 months, right? And this was the Tories, followed by Keir Starmer, who fought it in November. We don't know about 20,000+ people who have come into this country again. We don't know what they are. We don't know whether they have a criminal background. We'll get all the lefties going, oh, blah, blah, blah. My point is this, and this is the reason why I think Reform is getting massive traction, is I think the British people, Jake, right, are at the end of their tether about seemingly not just helping other people, but being put right at the back of the queue when they live their lives correctly. But no, this is what I'm saying. Your ex-leader, right, did not even have and she's a woman, so I can't say, but she didn't have the courage today to look Starmer in the face and take him on about this, because she knew he'd have said, you brought it in. I'd have been at his throat saying...
She was part of the cabinet that agreed it, as far as I understand.
But did she know about it? Well, because Mel Stride this morning said he didn't know about it.
Oh, well, it's amazing. Maybe they're having collective unease. I don't know. I saw an online argument, I think it was between Ben Wallace and Liz Truss, saying that the Cabinet approved it. I wasn't in the Cabinet. I have no idea whether the Cabinet approved it. And if the Cabinet did approve it, I guess that she was probably part of it. But I simply can't say. But actually, let's take a step back to where you started. You said people are being described as far right, because people were saying, look, there's just something wrong here. There's people appearing in my town. I don't know where they're coming from. Let's not forget, 20% of all military housing is currently being used to house these people from Afghanistan that we didn't do. And people say, look, I just think there's something the government's keeping, it doesn't compute. There's something going on with immigration that we can't see, we're not being told about. They were the people labelled far right, conspiracy theorists, all this sort of, and guess what? They were absolutely right. Now let's look at the other big issue, which I think is extraordinary, is this, I'll get on to the 7 billion, let's talk about this super injunction, right?
A celebrity gagging order to hide a government blunder.
Well, it's anti-embarrassment, right? So there may have been a short period where they wanted to react, they wanted to help people. 2 years? I mean, it's crazy to have it in place for almost 2 years, I think it was. So, this is like Watergate. I mean, the scale of this...
Somebody said that Matthew Talbot said, can you imagine Nixon taking out a super injunction? Here's my point, though, as well. I don't doubt that there were people, right, who helped this country, right? But again, and I keep going back to it...
But isn't that the start of the incompetence, though? The
why
Ministry
hasn't
of
anybody
Defence-
been fired? And yesterday on the
they
show,
don't-
the Taliban said, and this is the most important point, and I will keep saying this so they drag me from this studio. The Taliban said it was on Facebook. They've had the details of those people for 2 years. So I ask you this. We've had 23,900 people come to this country. Why haven't they been killed in the last 2 years then? Because it was 18 months before they were moved.
Correct. And then the other thing is, I just think is, who's running this country? So, you know, British taxpayers are shelling out £7 billion. To put that into context, taking away the fuel allowance from pensioners, that saved £1.5 billion.
£1.5 billion.
The benefit cuts, taking benefits from disabled people was to save £5 billion. Less than this magic amount of money they found down the back of the sofa.
Where is it?
It's government reserve, isn't it? £7 billion. It feels to people that, you know, if you're a hard-working Brit who's paying tax, you might have an issue. I mean, I have a disabled child, right? You might have an issue with a disabled member of your family, or you might yourself might be disabled and you need some more support. There's nothing for you. If you're in Afghanistan, come on, it's a bottomless pit.
What do you say to people who say that's racist? What do you say to them?
I just say, well, I don't think it is racist. There's nothing in fact to do with these people are Afghan or not. It's the fact that the government owes a duty to the British people to support the British people. And the real incompetence here, they said they think there was about 1,600 interpreters, right? The real incompetence
so
is
where's the 20,000
they don't know who. Well, it's 100,000 on the list of people
by
they
the
want to bring
time
into
the
the
families
country.
come.
So, you know, this is serial incompetence by the civil service. That they're in Afghanistan. You're right. Whether we should have been there or not is a moot point. They have people helping them. They don't know who they are. They don't know how many they are. And then through a data breach, they put 100,000 people at risk. They cover it up. And then the British taxpayer pays £7 billion so far. Because, of course, these people are all going to be here claiming benefits, free NHS, dentistry, mobile phone, all that sort of... £7 billion so far to stop a civil servant being embarrassed. And I hear it reported that civil servant may not have even lost their job.
Even better than yesterday in the show, did you hear this? That several thousand of these Afghans who are here have already got in contact with left-wing human rights lawyers, and they believe that they can sue the British government because they released their data by mistake for a further £1 billion.
Yeah,
so
and every penny they get,
man.
Jeremy, should be deducted from their benefits, or whatever they've received from the state should be taken back by the British people for the British people. This is a disgrace.
Simon in Devon, Manchester law firm Bearings, he says, have just signed up more than 650 Afghans to sue the British government for losing their data. Lawyers and politicians working together to betray the British people. I don't know what to think anymore. The truth of the matter is...
Vote reform, that's what you should think.
Well, you see, the thing is...
Because we need change.
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? And people will go... I mean, there was a poll out today, JB, that said that the British people are starting to feel that their ability to speak their mind and free speech is under threat. And one of the things, surely... I'm 60, for Christ. I've been around the block. I remembered the last Labour government. I tried to say it. You can't be two when you're doing this during an election campaign. I know that they promise everything to everybody and then they skint the country. I would respectfully suggest that at some point very soon the IMF will get involved and will say to Britain...
We're close.
We'll say to Britain, right, we'll bail you out. In return for that, inflation will go to 30%, all the unions will go on strike and we'll be where we were in 79. That is not me complimenting the Tories. What I'm saying is this, and I'm with you, I'm massively with you. I think your average Joe, for want of a much more respectful way of describing it, is going, we've had that, we've had this. Even if I listen to the people who say Reform or any other party have got no experience, they're going to go, would I seriously be any worse off? I believe that the majority of British people crave one thing, and you touched upon it. I think they'd like a politician, man or woman, doesn't matter the political party, to stand in front of them and go, right, listen, here it is, a bit Trump-esque. There's what I believe in. That's what I'm putting in front of you. If you elect me, I will do that. I will do that irrespective of the media, legal challenges. It'll be a journey. I'll bring you with me. There will be days when I mess up. There will be mistakes. I'm not whiter than white. I've been married twice. If you're tuning in, that's not true. I've taken this. I've done this. I've messed up. I'm not squeaky clean, but this is in my heart and my soul, and this is what I damn well believe in.
Britain.
Because I believe in Britain.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't see that. And I think at this moment, Nigel is able to portray that to the British people.
He's not whiter than white. I saw a clip with him and he was saying, you know, far be it from me to lecture anyone on, you know, on marriage. I've been married twice. But I think, you know, what happened in 1979 was a big change for the country because Margaret Thatcher came forward. A principled, albeit in her case conservative politician who had a vision for change, but someone who absolutely believed in Britain. I honestly believe, and it's part of the reason I've made the move, that that person who can turn Britain around is Nigel Farage. And if look, we'll have an election, I'm going to vote for reform, I'm going to vote for Nigel, everyone can vote for who they want to.
You going to stand?
But, well, it's early days, who knows? But, you know, I'm definitely not ruling it out. But, you know, we'll have our chance, we can vote for, if I can get selected, I'm not guaranteed any seat, but, you know, we can vote for who we want. But I honestly believe that if Britain doesn't make a change, we're done. We're done. And what a depressing thing to say.
Mate, I'm completely with you. Just to finish, actually, yes or no, would Jonathan Gullis, we saw him being very emotional there, would he be good for the Reform Party?
Look, I don't know. I said I've got no information on who the Reform Party would want or not have. On a very personal level, I think Jonathan Gullis is one of those few people in politics who kind of gets it. He knows how to connect with the British people. But whether he would want to go to Reform or be welcomed in Reform, I simply have no idea, Jeremy.
It's great to have you back, mate. You look well, and love to the family. We did us soon, but seriously, thank you. And fair play, because I think, you know, I think it's easy, and I'll say this, not because Jake's a friend, because he knows this, I'd take everybody to task, but it is possible to be part of something and go, I tried my best, I don't believe it anymore, and change your mind. In fact, if politicians in this country weren't so obsessed with their peer... This is the irony to me, right? Politicians don't answer questions. They don't want to talk about mistakes they've made. They pretend to be squeaky clean, and then they get caught and they look stupid. I don't care about a flawed character. I don't care about somebody that makes mistakes. I don't care if my politician isn't whiter than white. Are you allowed to say that? Probably I'll be fine. What I want is somebody who says, this is what I believe, and as you said, I want to make this country great again. That's it, you know?
And in a way, like this outrage of Afghanistan, I don't think the British public would be anywhere near as angry. And I've been talking to people on the tube on the way, and God, they're angry, right, about this, and rightly so. I don't think they'd be anywhere near as angry as if, you know, after a bit of time to make sure that people weren't going to be killed, the government had come out and said, look, we've made a huge mistake here, but we owe a duty of care to these people to support them. I think the British public who believes in fair play would go, well, you know what, we were at war, they were on our side, we should help them.
Not
what makes this
sneak them in.
outrageous is the night flights, is the taking housing away from people serving in our military, is the lying. Let's call it what it is. We have been lied to for nearly 2 years by both the Conservative government and now the Labour government. It's a massive betrayal. In my whole time in politics, I've never seen anything that's made me so angry.
Sir Jake Berry, newly defecting to Form, thank you for being on Talk Drive. It is 6:25, back in 3.
British people, via Parliament, were going to be not just misled, but directly lied to. And the costs that were suggested to the court, £7 billion. Now, There is an ancient constitutional principle that money is not raised and spent in this country without the approval of the House of Commons.
Yeah.
£7 billion is a lot of money to spend secretly without letting anybody know.
It is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:27. I'm here only as a warm-up for Kev O'Sullivan, who's here from 7 o'clock. Takes you through till 10 with his political asylum. He's got an asylum, Julia's got a nation, Mike's got a republic, and I've got Ryan. 0344... See that wonderful laugh? Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host for the final 30 minutes is the legend that is Kinsey Schofield's in the building!
We've had such a great day together.
What do you mean by that, Miss Schofield?
We've done a couple of programs together.
Oh, I'm glad you said programs. Yes, we did it on our own upstairs on the 14th floor.
Yeah.
Didn't we, outside?
We did.
Sorry, we did it outside. We did it outside on the 14th floor.
Program.
Then you, me and Mike did it in the basement.
Yeah.
That was great. And then you've come up here.
That was very Jimmy Kimmel, everything you just said out of context.
If you're tuning in, that Jimmy Kimmel is I don't like Jimmy Kimmel very much.
Well, he likes us,
His politics isn't great. But Jimmy Kimmel is a big noise in America, and he does an end-of-year, soundbite, and we made the top 10.
We did.
Simply, do you remember what it was about?
It was about eating chocolate. You were
Cadbury's cream egg.
Yes, you wanted to make sure I wasn't a Hershey's girl, and I'm not.
And your way of eating a Cadbury's cream egg?
The whole thing in your mouth. But you got to knock it out.
Do you take...
I'm not...
Do you suck the bit out of the middle, or do you just take the whole thing? No. 0344 499 1000. So we've had a good day, because there's loads to talk about. Now, I'm so pleased that you came on, and I thank you, because I do want to talk about the royals. Before we talk about Harry and Meghan and this alleged secret meeting and is it right, blah, 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 is it a fix? I want to talk about King Charles. I've always been, we talked about this earlier, but I'd like to do it on this as well. I've always been a massive fan of the royal family, as you know. A great believer, the old man worked for them, the Queen, blah, blah, blah. And I've also felt, whilst he was waiting for his destiny, which was only going to happen when his mother died, I've also felt, sort of sorry for him. If he didn't say anything, he was a scrounger. If he opened his mouth, he was getting involved. Last week, when Macron came to visit, my king uttered something that really didn't go down well with me and several other people. He said to Macron, we don't have any borders between us. My instant reaction is still my reaction, was kingdoms have borders. And if you haven't got borders, you haven't got a kingdom. And you want to be very careful saying stuff like that, because your mother would never have been that political. Thoughts?
Well, and my country fought a war so that he wouldn't be their leader. He wouldn't be their representative. I don't
think it was good.
Well, what the problem is he is supposed to represent everyone, within the Commonwealth, and. I listened to the callers that day that called in on your program, and that was not a fair representation of them. They felt like it was a betrayal. It was a betrayal of their rights, because they look at some of the people that have entered the country illegally, and they're receiving free health care, free cell phones, homes, driving lessons, DJ lessons, and these are people that are really struggling, having to choose whether to heat or eat, and worrying about having children in general in this in this world. Can they afford it culturally? Is it something? Do they want to bring a new being into this world? That is not their message. That and I think that he angered a lot of people, because he is supposed to be this representation of everyone, and
we talked earlier about, somebody asked a question that day, and we had lunch. We've been together all day, and somebody said, do you feel that the government would have influenced what he said? And I went, absolutely, but I never, in 57 years of my life, ever heard my Queen be that political, which means either his team didn't kick back or he has a motive. But I'm a massive royalist. I can bring it on to the next. So I just want to say that I hope in his desire to modernise or get involved, he doesn't screw the most important thing, because that went down like a cup of cold sick with millions of people. I'm being completely honest.
I know you are, and I understand the disappointment. I totally understand the disappointment. We are taught morally that if we follow the rules, we'll be rewarded, and we are watching people break the rules, and they're not just being rewarded, they're living comfortably while we're struggling. I get it, I understand it, and I was disappointed in it as well. Here's the thing. I think he's really trying to make his legacy one of peace. Remember, Trump has the blowout with Ukraine in the White House, basically boots him out of the White House, and all of a sudden he ends up at Windsor having tea with King Charles. You see that King Charles is trying to represent unity, peacefulness, bringing people together.
Can't get involved. Constitutional monarchy cannot get involved. People every day. Why doesn't the king get involved and overthrow the government? Rubbish. Ridiculous. Can't do it. She never did it. Let's talk about the big news of the week. This meeting that took place...
Again, peace, unity.
Yeah, Harry and Meghan. I nearly called her something else now. So their chief of committee... Tell us what happened, because this has been reported that the palace, the king... and his representatives and the Duke and Duchess of Montecito's representatives met, and it's the beginning of a thawing of relations. And look...
And we should know about it. There's absolutely no reason that we should know about this.
How do we know about it?
Because the Mail on Sunday, somebody got this great scoop, and not only are there pictures of Harry and Meghan's representatives getting out of a taxi cab, but they have all of them sitting at a table as they begin these tense negotiations. We have images of them. We shouldn't know exactly when they're going to arrive, at what private club in London, who all is there, what their positions are, and what the content that they're going to discuss.
You're not implying there was a leak, Miss Schofield, are you?
There clearly was a leak, and Harry has almost immediately came out saying that he was very frustrated that there was a leak and he wasn't involved.
Let's look at some evidence, Your Honour. Could I put before the court the following theory? Who leaks more than a bleeding tap without a washer on it? Is that the... Oh, no, that'll be Harry and... Oh, come... So what, they sabotaging their own olive branch? What? I don't get it.
Well, was this a strategy to pressure the British royal family into forcing a reunion, a royal reunion?
But I thought they wanted nothing to do with the royal family.
Well, exactly. Or is this Meghan jealous of all of Catherine's great coverage in the news lately, on the court, consoling the runner-up? I don't want to say...
She was rubbish, that player, wasn't she?
Well, I don't want to be...
Well done for getting to the Wimbledon final. You won 5 points. You lost 6-0, 6-0. You're crying. I'm sorry, let's cut to the chase.
I was trying not to be ugly about it, but, we've seen Catherine, and she looked great. Prince William on a polo horse raising money for charity. That was great coverage. It was like the Wales team was knocking it out of the park. Perhaps somebody from the Sussex team said, you know what, I've decided I want a headline today.
So we've got an expert saying that the palace is meeting with Meghan's cheerleader chief of communications, loves Wills and Kate, and they believe... Who is this bleeding expert?
Yeah.
They think
well, the thing is,
the beginning of a period of reconciliation over my debt. Are you joking?
They found old tweets from Harry and Meghan's employee talking about how she was excited to watch 8 hours of William and Catherine's wedding coverage.
No. This is tosh. Listen, these people made their bed. I probably get into trouble. I would strip them of their titles. I wouldn't trust them further than I could throw them. I think she's a narcissist. I think she does not deserve... I think if she came back to the United Kingdom, she would absolutely understand what a majority of people feel here. I'm sure as a father, I will make this point, I'm sure as a father myself, lots of kids, obviously, in fact, none between us, that's a shock. I'm joking. He probably feels, is he ill? How ill is he? I don't know. Does he want to make amends with his son? Can absolutely put my life on the fact that William will never, ever look at his brother in the same way again. Done.
And can you blame him? Because we found out that while Catherine was discovering that she had cancer and trying to navigate this with 3 small children, someone from Harry and Meghan's camp leaked to Omid Scobie that it was Catherine and King Charles that was the royal racist. I don't think one exists, period. I don't think that story is authentic.
He's got no chance, the ginger witch. I honestly believe that when William becomes king, that is it. I sort of understand from a parental point of view. but on the back rather, of the "we've no borders," he wants to read the room, King Charles, and the room says that these two do not deserve the respect because all they've done is decide to leave an institution their right because they were being invaded and their privacy was being taken from them.
While Meghan's taking pictures of their children in her own home.
And making money only to survive in their ridiculously opulent lifestyle by talking about the very thing that they don't believe in and they don't want anything to be part of. But I want my children to have titles. I would strip them and their kids and let them live in California if that's what they... It does my head in.
They're Americans. They're American babies. Lily, at least, was born in America.
Do you mean Lilybird?
No, I will call her Lily because that was a stolen name. That is the stolen name.
No comeback for them here, though. Can you? I can't see that.
I can't see that. If Prince Harry returns to this country, it's as a divorced man. It's
with
as
his
a
ginger tail between his legs. I've said it for ages. Just as an overview from you, do you understand? Do you think these are real talks, or do you think this is...
I think it's a PR stunt to benefit the Sussexes, who are tired of being the villains.
But they are the villains.
They are the villains. They've done this to themselves.
I'd like to think that you came thousands of miles to see me.
It was Princess Anne, but yes, you're the runner-up.
Did you see Princess Anne yesterday?
Yeah, last night at St. George's Chapel.
What did you do?
There was a beautiful lecture, and she sat 5 seats in front of me, and then there was a drinks little.
I'm going to let you into a really shocking secret here. Right?
Oh.
You know the old man was knighted for his services to the royal family. Do you realise that I actually could ask to be married in St. George's Chapel in Windsor, but obviously I'm not getting married again.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool though. Can you have your funeral there?
Brilliant, my funeral. I'm going to be buried in St. George's Chapel. Will you give a speech?
I would.
Yes. Yeah, very quickly, I know we're in a hurry, Ryan. Do you know one of the last things that my dad said to me? I've got to share this. He's dead, obviously. Bless him. But he said to me, when you do the eulogy, son, could you try and not make it about yourself for a bleeding change?
Well, doesn't he know you?
God rest your soul, Patrick Carl. Kinsey Schofield, you're an absolute legend. Host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered.
You're on it tomorrow.
We're on it tomorrow. When does it drop?
At 7 p.m.
7 p.m. She's a legend. Thank you very much indeed. 20 to 7, this is Talk Drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's 7, welcome back. Ladies, there's a bloke called Sarge, John Lucas, the night editor. We're calling him the night stud now. He's on a night off. So they have this thing at the Sun when they talk about that they send bald, good-looking men, is what I'm told. We say good afternoon, good evening. Will Barker, assistant news editor. How are you, son?
Not too bad. We've given John the night off. So
are you his boss, or is he?
Yeah, technically I'm his boss.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm deputy head of news, and he's just night editor.
Has it gone to his head?
It has a little bit. He's got a bit starry. I went to the pub with him last night. He was walking walking around trying to sign autographs and things like that. He's a bit of a TV legend now.
Listen, we love the link with the Sun. We love what you do. Thank you for your time. We want to talk about tomorrow's paper. We always do it. Something on ITV.
Yes.
Love Lies. Oh, I'll let you do this. Love Island.
Yes.
That's still on the television. Did I say that? Has been plunged into a huge fakery row as two singles have already hooked up in the same villa 2 months ago.
Yes.
What does that mean? I don't actually watch Love Island.
Well, I don't particularly, but there's this we had a tip came in last night. There was a punter was watching the show.
Yeah.
And suddenly noticed that Ty and Lauren didn't seem to know each other, but knew for a fact that they were really good friends, and they have in fact hooked up previously. And it transpires that Love Island have a sort of dry run in about May, and these two contestants went in the show in May, and they got friendly together.
I love what you've done. You didn't say they got friendly together. Does that mean what I think it means? Possibly.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And then they stayed friends, and now they've been parachuted into the show halfway through its run, and were pretending that they didn't know each other, and have now sort of become friends again. On the show last evening.
You'll understand that it's very difficult for me to talk about Love Island. Imagine that. I mean, well, you know, listen, people will make their mind up with that. So Ty Isherwood and Lauren Wood both took part in ITV's unfilmed rehearsal week in May when they got it on. Then they get parachuted into the series Popper even, as part of Casa Amor, is it, when they coupled up with other... Right.
Yeah.
So we could imply by that the producers might have known that at some point they'll get together.
Yeah. And this show is not, you know, it's had lots of scandals around it all the time, and this is just another one. And this was passed to our great TV editor, Flick and Felicity Cross, and she's managed to stand it up, and it's going.
Is that front page tomorrow?
It might be a bit on the front. It's page 3, I think, at the moment.
Fantastic. Lessons to... I mean, honestly, this... We cover a lot on this show. We've done a lot on the Afghan situation today, but this is also a massive, massive story.
Yeah.
Prevent, the government's anti-terrorism scheme. Really serious story, peeps. Missed chances to protect the public from the attacker who assassinated the late great MP for Southend, Sir David Amess, and from the youth who murdered 3 young girls at a Southport dance class. An official report has revealed. What's the point of an organisation whose name is Prevent if people get murdered through their incompetence?
Yeah. So, I mean, Lord Anderson is the commissioner, had to pull this report together because they just let 2 through the cracks. And to look, and surprisingly, they found lots of holes. The issue seemed to be is that they got 2 sort of hung up on finding people's ideology. And it certainly happened in the Southport case, where they were too worried about if they were following a particular religion or whatever. And they said, well, just look at the violent
It's just, I know this is difficult for you lot, but for me it's not, right? Because this is what I do. That is exactly like the police said to me about the Rotherham rape gangs. We took at the time because we were concerned that might lead us to being accused to, fueling racial tension. To me, it's really simple, black and white. You break the law, you need to be dealt with. They should be dealing with these people, irrespective of worrying about the impact. Imagine if you're David Amess's family and you hear that. We perhaps could have been, a bit more in their face, but we were worried that would upset people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that's appalling.
Yeah.
The police have had... I mean, lots of people criticise the police. I'm sure that many men and women on the street do a fantastic job, but there's criticism quite rightly from above, and they feel that a lot of these sort of soft approaches and the problems come from above. You've got a story, Prideful. Tell us more about that.
I mean, this is also... we get a lot of complaints about the police just not policing, not catching crooks, not going out on the ground. This is sort of a victory for common sense. So, at the Pride March in Newcastle last July, Northumbria Police sent a car and several officers and unfurled a flag and joined in the march. Now, one of the demo people there sort of looked at it, this is ridiculous. Why are the police wasting time doing this? So made a complaint, actually took her complaint to the police, to the courts rather, and took legal action about this. And the judge has come back today and quite rightly said, yes, the police shouldn't be doing this. This is absolutely crazy.
2 judges in 2 days making the right bleeding decisions in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, again, Peter Blexley, who's always on this station, ex-Met, you know, sort of the Sweeney, if you imagine, in the 70s and 80s, says that this is all about the greasy pole. This is all those above ticking the box because they're more interested in promotion. If you run a shop in Newcastle or in London and somebody comes in and nicks up to £200, the police won't even come, right?
Yeah.
You've worked all your life for that, but they'll take part in the Pride March. Now, if you say that, the left will go, oh, what, you're being anti-Pride. No, I'm not. I'm saying the police should be on the streets getting criminals in the car or in the cage because they're breaking the law.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd call it, you know, with the, oh, God, you've got a story about that woman. Harry Potter star Emma Watson, talk to me.
So... Well, we revealed on Saturday that she's got a bit of a problem with speeding, and she got
also slagging off the person that made her millions.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She got done for speeding. She was doing a 38 and a 30. She got 3 points, but it's not the first time in the last couple of years that she's done this, and she's now totted up and she's got 12 points, and she was got put before the magistrates this morning and has been banned from driving. But the peculiar thing is, our reporter Tom Godfrey phoned up. He was in the court. Discovered on the court list there was another Harry Potter star also.
Both in the same court the same day?
Both in the court the same day.
That's magic. Oh,
yeah.
Jesus, that was bad. This is true. Zoe Wanamaker.
Zoe Wanamaker's also getting banned from driving on the same day.
Is there any truth, and I can ask this of you, Will Baker, assistant news editor of The Sun, I had a bit of a tip-off that Emma Watson has blamed J.K. Rowling for her speeding. Is that fair?
Probably.
Probably she would. You're a lovely, happy man, aren't you? So I'm no longer going to look at Sarge. So I got the distinct impression that Sarge was the boss, but he's not really. He's a minion.
Yes.
He's a minion. Yeah. Do you want female attention, or are you just...
No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Happily married man.
Are you?
Yes.
Yeah. First time?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it off air. I'm joking. Will Barker, thank you so much indeed. Buy the current bun tomorrow. Love Lies, that shocking Love Island plunged into a huge fakery row as two singles who took part in the rehearsal week, got it together according to Will and the team, have been flown into the series apparently as strangers. What are ITV up to? There's many times I've thought that in my life. This is Talk Drive.
British people, via Parliament, were going to be not just misled, but directly lied to. And the costs that were suggested to the court, £7 billion. Now, there is an ancient constitutional principle that money is not raised and spent in this country without the approval of the House of Commons.
Yeah.
£7 billion is a lot of money to spend secretly without letting anybody know.
It is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 10 to 7, another reason to buy the brilliant Sun tomorrow. Thank you to Will Barker, assistant news editor, talking about that exclusive Love Island fakery row with ITV. Don't get me involved. Another reason, probably even a bigger reason to buy the newspaper, is the legend, the myth, the man himself, Mike Graham, will be on page 10, the editorial, writing an amazing article that will simply ask this Is it not time for a general election? Have we not lost complete faith in our government? Have we not lost complete faith in the opposition? Is it not time for a change? Page 10, editorial tomorrow with MG, all part of the Sun newspaper. Buy it. It is absolutely on the button, as talk is. We thank you for all your calls and your texts today. Real response to the Afghan debacle. Kev is on his way. At the peak of the UK's involvement, approximately 10,000 British troops were deployed in Afghanistan, according to the Royal British Legion. Why do they need 25,000 translators? Dangs from Lingfield, lovely racecourse. Let's look back at Keir Starmer calling a press conference to say they caught one migrant smuggler, whilst knowing the UK governments were smuggling thousands of Afghanistani migrants into our country. What a complete and utter take. Molly, you just said the British people will find their voice, but the thing is the British people are gagged, ignored or threatened. We can't speak up for the fear of being sent to prison, being labelled far-right for racism. Hello to Francis in Sussex. Why should they come here? Afghan refugees get houses and everything paid for when the servicemen and women who they were helping get nothing and are living on the streets. Is disgusting. I hate the fact that we do not do enough for our veteran service people. Could not Francis in Sussex agree with you anymore. Hello to Neil, who says, I served my Queen for 9 years, Jez, and I would not let the King serve me a drink. That's how I feel. Neil in Wales. To the phone lines. We'll head to Essex. Sean, we've got 2 minutes on Talk Drive. What you got, kidder?
Yeah, what I was trying to say is if Sunak and Starmer have used clandestine means to bring people into the country, then Starmer is no better than the gangs that he wants to smash, is he?
Well, I think the one thing that's sort of come out of this, Sean, is that they're all complicit. And actually one of the reasons, and I know that, you know, a lot of people go, why are you talking about... I don't care, actually, if it's Reform or Advance or the monster raving loony party. I just... Sitting here every day, I get the increased feeling that the British people have had a gutsful of the Tory and Labour because they don't actually genuinely believe a frigging word any of them say.
They don't listen to anybody other than their little bubble in Westminster.
I mean, that's another thing. So people who listen to this know that I spend a lot of time in Newcastle. My best mate lives there. Loads of my mates live there, right? Sort of second home to me, right? I do not, hand on heart, right?
Yeah.
I have not met any person in Newcastle, from the paramedic who comes to the football to one of the most successful businessmen, right? And I'm talking working class people, people who have been successful and come from nothing. They all say the same thing. The Labour Party was set up as the working people's party. None of them believe that's the case anymore. They don't believe that any party bar Reform is talking about the things that matter to them. And they also...
I'm a Reform member, but my grandfather was a founding member of the Labour Party in Stepney in East London.
Yeah.
And he'd be spinning in his grave now.
Yeah, he would be. Seriously. And what do you... Actually, as a Reform member, and I'd like to ask you this, had Sir Jake Berry on, who's very honest, and did tell Sunak to shove it, which is why he left the Cabinet. A lot of people in Reform are saying, we don't want people like that. We don't want failed Tories. What's your view on that?
Well, I think they're just... they come through an organised department where they're almost schooled into politics.
Mm-hmm.
So they speak the same language on the right, on the left, and it's not right or left anymore. It's just Westminster.
I think it's centrist, apologistic rubbish. I completely agree, and I also, I mean, I said it earlier. I'd love your take. I want a politician who's flawed. I want a politician who's made mistakes, lived a bit of life, admits to his failures, says I'm not going to be perfect, and there'll be stuff between now and whenever you vote or don't vote for me that will come out. But this is what I'm standing on, and if you believe in me, vote for me. I'll do my best to do it, and if I can or I can't, I'll let you know. That's it. I just don't think we have it.
We've had years and years of Etonians and all of those people. If we got the working class in there, maybe, just maybe, we might get something done.
Is Farage the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom?
I think so.
Be interesting to see. Sean, great to have you on, pal. Regards to the family, thank you for that. Let's head to Leeds. Last call of the day. Steve, you're on Talk Drive. How are you?
I'm fine, Jeremy. How are you?
Yeah, not bad for an old 60-year-old frustrated has-been.
I'll be quick. So Jake Berry, the interview you did, right? What I wanted to know was, has he really understood what we're looking for as people, honest politicians? And the question you asked him at the end shows me that he doesn't. You asked him, do you want to get back? Do you want to be a Reform MP? And instead of just being honest and saying, yes, I bleeding well do, it was the usual, well, maybe if they ask me, I'll think about it in the future. Just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Politicians, you want to be back in Parliament, you want to be back there to make a difference, say it. If you don't, say, no, I don't. But we've just got, he hasn't really understood what we frustrates us about politicians. We just want honest politicians that tell us how it is.
But I think honesty, I actually agree with you, but I would caveat what you've said. Actually, when we say we want honest politicians, we want politicians who are honest about their shortcomings and their failures. And one of the reasons, and a lot of people hate me for saying this, Donald Trump is Marmite, right? Or Vegemite, wherever you come from. Somebody will be offended, right? They love him or they loathe him. But he stood and he said, this is what I'm going to do. And if I get elected, irrespective of whoever challenges me legally or morally, I'm going to do it. And that appalls 40% of America or 45%, but the rest think he's the coming. I think in this country, and I don't know if Farage is the man, I hope he is, I just think we need somebody who believes in something, wants to improve and put the... And that sounds like I'm talking Trump, but puts the British people first. And for all the people who jump up and down and go, well, that's not very fair, there's lots of people suffering in the world. Well, I would simply say this, yes, there are. But we can't afford to wipe their backsides anymore, Steve, because we have people in this country who are suffering, OK? The context is your own people are suffering and you need to look after them better. Mate, great speech to you. Regards to the family, Stephen Leeds. Another drive time draws to a close. Another culmination of 3 hours of effort as the main man strides purposefully into Studio One. Every day I spend 180 minutes warming up for the man who basically is this station, and without him, we would be nothing. That's what he's asked me to say.
Yeah,
Kev O'Sullivan, how are you?
Thank you for reading
I've
the
left you
script
3
there.
biscuits. Look again,
Yeah,
lovely.
thank you. I love that.
Yes.
Well, this is just broken. I think you've just broken. It's an incredible story at the BBC. Deborah Turness, who glorifies under the title, I think she's called Chief Executive of News. She's basically the head of news.
Is she at the BBC now? She used to be at ITV, didn't she, Deborah
Yeah,
Turness?
and then Channel 4, I think. Anyway, she's the most important journalist at the BBC. She's the top journalist. This is a film of her addressing the staff after the Gaza documentary fiasco, saying, well, just keep quiet about it, don't worry, it'll all blow over. Then she goes on to say, you know, the thing is, you know, they got it all wrong because there are 2